Awesome. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the June 19th, 2025 meeting of the FIC Committee for the School Board. And we will start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's been a minute since we've been together. How's everybody doing?
Too bad.
Sounds good. School year's over.
All the fun's just beginning, right?
Exactly. So I did send out with the agenda on Tuesday night the minutes from the May 20th meeting that was taken by Ms. Jan Sullivan. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes?
They were excellent. She did a nice job.
She does a very nice job. Brian and I went back to forth of, do we keep it short and sweet just so that way people need to go watch the video to get the whole context, or do we do in-depth? And we both said short, sweet. Keep it short, sweet, and go from there. All right.
We open remotely, is there anyone?
I do have a meeting open. There was not a meeting posted for tonight's meeting, but I do have Google Meet that I can give the code for.
Okay.
I haven't received anything saying that people are trying to log in. So, do I hear a motion to vote on the meeting minutes of 5:20?
I'll motion.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Passes 7. Any opposed? Abstained? Passes 7-0.
Go on. 701.
701. Next up, do we have any updates on the RFP? Do we have any questions that came in or anything like that from the firms?
The only question that came in is if we had any CAD drawings. So,
Okay.
We don't
Old-
have them
old
from when the
paper
school
ones?
was built?
we have the physical those ones,
Yeah.
but digitalized more recent stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Hand drawn.
yeah, I mean we have the original blueprints and we got
Chiseled.
buckets and buckets of them.
They probably didn't have digitized.
No, you did
25
not.
years ago.
Drawn with a ruler and a
Yeah.
pencil.
Slide
Could have
rules.
scanned.
By a draftsman with a hat and a pencil stuck in his ear.
Yeah.
So we just responded now.
Okay.
I mean since we last meet we had the bid meeting, what's it called?
Yep. Yeah, the
Business conference.
pre-RFP.
Yeah, that. Thanks. Look, I'm tired. 11 people came, 9 different firms were represented, so it was good. We were there about 2 hours, I would probably say.
Yeah, about that,
Yeah, did tour of the building, went over, they had questions then,
Yeah.
at the time, but since then, nothing. And then, last time they did, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is when they had the project that went up last year, they had a total of 4 bids for that project.
That was before my time
Yes.
on the
Yeah.
board.
Yep.
So, with 9 people coming, we're hoping for, again, 4 or 5 people to ultimately bid on the process. And July 3rd is when those are done, and then get the meeting the next week for the board.
Any unexpected firm show up?
No, I mean, your big time heavy hitters in the city, you're like Turner, you're Oak Valley, they all showed up. A couple of smaller ones, but they had shown interest before.
Yeah.
In the project, so, no one who jumped out as me as unexpected per se, because there's only so many,
Right.
but,
Anybody
people that-
absent that you would think
No,
would be there?
that's a good question too, the people that I am familiar with were all there, actually saw some familiar faces, I was like, I know you. Yeah, different things over the years and stuff, so, it was good. So,
Yeah.
we'll see, we were obviously just, please, at least one firm show up, so. When that many did, it was like a sigh of relief, like, oh, okay, like people understood what we were putting out there and like are ready
Excellent.
Yeah, so I was at that meeting. We kind of stressed to everybody that we're looking for a partnership, right? This isn't just go give me a design and come back. This is, we need help, sit down with us, help us through this process of figuring out which way to go. One thing that was surprising that I did recommend is 3 different firms asked about, do we want them to provide a pre-construction manager for their team? And I said, yes. Like, they take care of all the coordination on that firm side, they get everybody involved, and they're the one headhunter that we go after. So it would be the, like, equivalent to a project manager on our side that we would go after, so I did say yes to that, and they, okay. Then after about an hour and a half in the tour, that was it.
And I could say, just having done this twice before, this was the unique one, because the last 2, it was, we want a project done, do the project. This was more of a lot of, well, it could involve that, we might be open to this, and none of them seemed to shrug or scare by that, they kind of all acknowledged that, like, okay, yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, they asked if the middle school was in play, and we said no.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that was in the big group or just when we were doing the tour, but.
No, that was in the big group.
I was like, no, like, limit yourself to these 2 buildings and stuff like that, we just put a lot of money into the middle school. We're not looking to, change the physicality of that room beyond if there was a shift in grades and doing some of that.
Which wouldn't require any changes anyway.
Right, besides moving desks and.
Right.
Carpets
And-
and that type of stuff.
Yeah, anything would be ancillary and small,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Lowering the sink heights if needed for kindergartners or something like that, but. Okay, any other?
Did they have any comments as they were walking through?
Tired,
They had some comments,
yep.
yep, just leave it like that, they had
Yeah.
comments that you would
Anything
expect.
constructive?
There seemed to be, when we went outside, Dan helped me with where I am in the building, but when you're on the backside of the library,
Mm-hmm.
and like that drainage.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, the
that
roof
just
drains.
stuck out at me, that got some like wide open eyes, like, oh, this is how you do your drainage here,
Yeah.
into this, okay, like, that seemed to be the most like, oh, okay, like, that's what it is. I mean, the boiler room's always a trip when you take people in there, because it's kind of Frankenstein's monster
Oh, yeah.
of a system, just because it's been added on at different points and different parts and stuff like
Well,
that.
especially if you're shuffling 9 people through.
I will say none of them like led on to anything or they weren't making judgments or anything. They
it
weren't.
wasn't
We weren't in a section where they would be like, "Well, this isn't worth it," or anything
Yeah,
like that.
nothing
They were
like
just
that.
taking it all.
Nobody
in.
left the tour midway? and
Yeah,
said,
nobody else.
I know
Just
you all
wanted-
think that looks terrible, but he knows mechanical spaces oftentimes look like Frankenstein put them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Unless they're brand new builds.
yeah, I mean, it's, the mechanical room doesn't scare me as much as all of the, I'll call it the accessory stuff outside of it that gets you to your radiators and your distributions. That scares me more than the mechanical
Can't see
room.
it cleanly.
Well, I can't see it cleanly, you can see evidence of it is dripping, or it
It's
was.
dripping.
Or
You
the
know.
second boiler room, 20 feet gross flat.
Yeah, but I mean, so
Again,
there
not
was.
unusual.
There was some comments around, a lot of people just said that even a coat of paint will make this look better, brighter. Like, just, a lot of people said it looked tired, which they're not wrong. But there was some comments about what, with the 30s building, what could be done from that aspect, just because it's built physical space, right? So there's something to do with that. I think the most comments I heard was around the drainage, and it was around even just consistency of doors and frames and just little things that would add up to the self-described 1,000 paper cuts. Like, they couldn't believe that we maxed out the electrical. Like, it's not just the panel in the building that's maxed out, the line coming from the pole is maxed out. So we can't even add another panel, right? We gotta add another transformer or add a line or something like that, right? And they were like, oh, I was like, it just never got there, right? It never came up to the point of, we have to rewire this for current technology standards. So that kind of set in, at least in one firm's mind, the kind of the process of, oh, so, okay, it's gonna go that far type stuff. I think the comment I heard from H.L. Turner when they showed up, I think we did a report for you in 2017, and I don't think things have changed. And
No, they've gotten 8 years worse.
yeah, we kind of noted, yep, sounds about right, and just left it as that, right, and just went with it. But I was encouraged to see 9 firms show up versus, you know, the standard 5 that Dan and Andrew and Matt always talked about, so.
Okay.
All right,
What-
go ahead.
Unrelated to the visit itself, the schedule from here now is they're due the 3rd, I think you said?
Yeah,
And then what's the decision timeline from there? Is there a question period back to the firms and a back and forth, or is it just take what they gave you, make a decision and pick one?
A little bit of both.
Yeah, I
Like,
think
we
we-
wanna make a decision sooner than later, like, we'll see what we have in our possession there on July 3rd. And then at the July 9th board meeting, we're going to discuss what we have there and then, you know, be prepared to take it in whatever step needs to be taken, right? Like, if they're, let's say 4 is the number since 4 was the last time. If they're 4 kind of radically different proposals, which they could be with the size of the firms and the different people that kind of came and stuff like that, and kind of the wide scope of what we're asking for in terms of support for this, then we're gonna have to confer with the board on how they want to approach that, right? Which could be, you know, involving this group, obviously at some point to review stuff, using the expertise of other people and everything like that. If they're 4 very similar proposals, right, then it might just be, we can make a quicker, not necessarily quicker, but a decision makes more sense from a logical standpoint. Okay, these are all of the similar type of things, they're offering a, you know, construction manager as part of the deal, they're putting this timeline up here, they're doing this same cost estimate a little bit. Like, maybe we're comfortable making a decision sooner than later and stuff like that. So I think allow the process to naturally kind of play out. We have like a larger timeline, I'm gonna try and find it, because I don't want to misquote it, of just when we need to really make decisions, if we're gonna get something out of
Is it the
March
same one you put in the May 7th meeting?
most likely, I don't remember which one I put in there, but I'm assuming
Yeah.
that's the one.
All right, so I got it up.
What is your plan if one focuses on GMS and the other focuses on the consolidation?
Well, we were adamant that we wanted both. Like, that was part of when we talked at this bid meeting, we went over, like, we really have to have both. Like, that's kind of where we need that comparison's sake, so we can make informed decisions from there, because we feel like the community needs to see really kind of both of those options kind of played out. And like, what is the cost value of it, the educational value of it, and everything else kind of associated with it. So if someone just puts out one, now I guess if every firm just says one option, like you should not do a second option, then that's a discussion that needs to happen from, you know, like a board level. But if, you know, there's 4 bidders and one of them's like, well, we can't do this option over here, but the other 3 want to entertain it, like, I think we're gonna eliminate that one that won't.
And
Look at multiple options, because that's what we're asking.
at this point, we won't necessarily know, because what we're gonna get back is their fee schedule, their process, so
Right.
they're gonna bring in the team. They're not gonna, at this point, bring any ideas, so then, once we enter into a relationship, so we may not necessarily know if they prefer one way or the other. So,
Yeah, so we did ask for, within that presentation, what is their approach to discussing that and the approach for both options, right?
Yeah.
So it would be based, so we would kind of make a selection on that, and go forward from there. But,
Because I would think you have to have some kind of idea of like what they're thinking to
yep,
be able to make a decision, not just based off their fees and stuff. Like, I need to
Yeah.
know more about like what
that's
your,
where if we.
what your
yeah.
ideas are for this. Like, if your ideas are terrible, then I'm not picking you, regardless of what your fees are.
If we decide to go in for, like, if we can incorporate the interview, you know, in between before deciding, you know.
So this was a rough timeline we talked about a couple of months ago at a board meeting. I haven't updated it since, so I mean, some of these dates might need to be updated. But it was just like a very, very rough draft timeline of when certain things, it's like, I think the 21st was not the meeting we ultimately did that by, maybe it was, I don't remember.
no, I believe it was,
That was the right meeting.
yeah.
And
Or is
then
the
we have the
20th?
9th as the next board meeting, you know, I put up there, bid approved by the school board, doesn't mean it has to be approved that night by the school board, but we're at least gonna have that on the agenda to discuss about. And then once we kind of get into an agreement, we're gonna start going back and forth with the firm that we select, ultimately looking at some sort of proposal in the board's hands in October, you know? While we're working on the proposed budget, because that's gonna be a piece of it, because whatever, can't do those things in isolation from each other. So we kinda need some sort of proposal in October is what we're thinking. We're having a target of the March day. Now, I'm not saying we are bound by any of these dates. I certainly have no experience shepherding this type of project through as a superintendent, so we'll see where it goes from there. You know, I took guesses on these dates based on talking to people who have done this type of work before, but, you know, we'll see where it goes from there, so.
We talked at one point in time, I'm sorry, Ray.
Sorry.
That's okay, I'm just gonna say that there's a bunch of current legislation, and I can't tell you exactly where it's at, that's gonna impact some of this. One of them is when you apply for, building aid, they're gonna require you to hire an owner's representative at that time. So you're
Okay.
gonna have to have your clerk of the works on this side for the entire time that process is open. And I'm not sure where that's at right now. There's,
So you're saying there's gotta be building?
actually, my next sentence is, there was no building aid added to this budget for this biennium. And, what's there is there, and at this point, how it's gonna be distributed is anybody's guess. But I also got appointed to a subcommittee to help formulate the legislation for building aid, so,
So there's no building aid in this budget?
no.
Just-
So you
we're
may
still
have some
hanging over the
unattended,
budget.
No additional to what's already in their budget, is what you're saying, or
there's
none at
nothing in
all?
the current biennium. So the budget that's gonna be passed next week, or not, depending on what happens, has no building aid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even selfishly, just internally, the pessimistic person in me is not planning on building it.
Yeah.
Like, for this project, so.
That's what I'm trying to,
Yeah.
We
So
talked at
pushing
one
for-
point in time that if we pursued the consolidation, we'd have to decide if there was buy-in from the community.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to start that process, and who's going to do that?
Well, it would probably be me and team educational people.
School board.
It'd be a school board meeting presentation that would probably publicize quite a bit, because I'm sure there's some people interested in that. I've talked very informally in board meetings, like quick updates of like, hey, we're gonna need to do this at some point, right? Like do a formal presentation regarding the 7 through 12.
I would think you would have to do it as you're choosing which direction you're going as you
Well,
do
and I
the,
think we need to get in the weeds a little bit with these people, right? Like,
Right.
Because, like, they're not gonna come to us with on June 9th with like an exact price for these, right? But as we've kind of talked, and maybe this is just my point of view, right? Where we're gonna look at is, like, when we can start seeing numbers start to emerge on this, like, the validity of different options and everything like that.
I've, and I've
If
always,
a-
okay.
Yeah, just, if we, and I'm gonna simplify it to 2 options, right, a GMS only and then a redistribution model. And I know within that, there's different, like, components of everything kind of associated, but we're only gonna touch GMS, or we're gonna touch GMS and CHS, right? If those, like, options, like, just a GMS only option costs, I'm gonna really exaggerate, $40 million, and a reconfiguration model costs $5 million, well, I don't think there's much of a discussion on what we're gonna
Yeah.
kind of pursue there, right? I think when we need to start seriously educating people about the reconfiguration type of model is when we start putting that ballpark number between the two closer into like the $5 to $10 million difference range, right? Or even whatever that is, you know? Because if they're so extreme apart in any given way, like I don't know if we're gonna really even engage in that type of conversation. I don't think they're gonna be so extreme apart, so like we'll have to engage in this conversation, but before committing to like when we're gonna do that presentation, I would like to I think that's gonna be a natural question for people, is like weighing the difference in the costs versus what will obviously be changing in the educational model. Like, so I would like some sort of guidance in that type of answer before presenting.
So I also did bring up at, not last night's meeting, but the meeting before at the school board, that my preference to engage a communication firm or somebody.
that didn't go well.
Well, Andrew pushed back, right? But because he thinks that we got all the information out there the last time and people didn't. I was like, I just voiced my opinion as a citizen, right? Saying it was hard to pinpoint and find. I couldn't go to the GMS website and say where's all of the information that everything was looked at and who looked at it and all of this information. It was there if you dug around, just like it's there to go find the job descriptions if you dig around. But it's not it was not very it was not very user friendly for someone to do if they're not involved with that information in the school system directly.
So would that expert be related to this project, or would they be related to the school in general? Because it sounds, if you're talking about job listings and other things, that's a school problem, not a.
Yeah, no, it would be this project specifically. And you know, and Andrew asked a few other things, and I said, like, listen, guys, even if it's something as they point everybody, right? They can surf all of the different social media pages and everything. They can point everybody to here's the website of everything, and just say, hey, thanks, I'm doing this. Here's the website of everything, right? Because I saw that one comment on. And what I would love is a website for this project as we get into it and just link, here's all the FIC meetings to the YouTube FIC meetings in order as we went through this.
Can you also,
Should just be on the school, it should be on the SAU's website.
Yep,
As a page off of there. This is not rocket science.
I agree,
Can you
but
also
the
link-
last time it was just difficult for me to find, right? So,
can you link the last FIC videos as well? Because they were good videos.
no, and that's what I mean, is since we started down this project a year ago,
I would even go back 2 years.
okay.
The one Tina shared.
Okay, yeah, but it would be stuff like that, but that's what I'll put it, we don't necessarily have all the time. I know, Brian, you mentioned that Renee would be really good at doing something like this as well. And it's a great idea if it's there, but I would like to say that I would like to get someone, I'll call it independent, a little bit, that is their paid and their focus is to do just this, right? And let's sort it out, let's do it properly.
But the reality is though, if you're having problems finding things on the school website, shouldn't you just have somebody do the school website? Because the town.
I look at the other way as a propaganda campaign. You know, if you're just gonna single it out as a single focus, if you make it part of the bigger project of fixing the school's website, make it easy to find, that has lasting effect for a long time, right?
Getting away from the school website, just a website that can consolidate all of the information of this project. Everything that we did, whether it's attached to the school website or not, right? But let's make it, somebody's dedicated to doing just that, and then they can start fielding the questions. If we need to get community input, we can engage this group to help do that, get that community input. I mean, we got as much as we could because of the elections during last year. We got more than 60% of our responses during those 2 days. So that's kind of where I'm still gonna push it. We'll see how well it goes, but I'm gonna keep trying for it.
I can say that as it come budget time, there will be questions about that because I would be concerned about how that would look transparency wise. It looks like you're pushing a particular project. And obviously, in some ways, some people are, but it sounds like there's a bigger problem. So I would if you want to address this as part of that bigger problem, as part of improving overall community outreach, fine, have at it. But only focusing on that, I, as a taxpayer, would have a problem with that.
Educating the public though, there's so many comments on Facebook that they have
That's
no.
what I'm saying, fix the school page, the entire page, all of the community.
But
And I'll be
educating on
honest, I
what's
thought
been
the
done.
reimagining GMS thing one was easy to find and it had everything.
And people
Yeah.
still didn't show up to the,
People still didn't look at it.
Yeah.
so to me, it's just like, if you fix the page, the problem gets solved.
But there's
I
also,
don't think it's that simple, but
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
But why pour more money into something that, it just seems wasteful, honestly. I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm dreading my tax bill. Actually, I saw my tax bill. Ugh. So I just feel that when the reassessments come in, like, I would just be very cautious with where we're spending our pennies. And to me, that's one area where if you're going to make it part of improving overall school communications, I could get behind that. Focusing on just one project, I don't like.
I think educating the public for what they're voting for, so they know when they go to the
Well,
polls.
Kerry is advocating for a new position.
No, I'm
I
not.
want to
No,
know.
I'm
We get the minutes to reflect
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can leverage existing talent.
I mean, I
No new positions.
I'm gonna say, Carrie, the only thing I have is, we gotta be able to educate, and I'm not for one project or the other. I'm for, here's all of the information that we've done, here's everything we've done over the last year. Here's, we got an RFP, here's all the questions, here's all the interviews, putting that in a consolidated place. And frankly, I would like someone just to field the questions, the comments, and direct everybody, because I can't police Facebook and say, just go to this website. Constantly just, please go to this website to go find all of that information. But to me, it's not out of the realm of possibility to focus on communication of a widespread town project and have a dedicated communication strategy for that.
My concern is how much money have we spent and gone nowhere? So we're gonna spend more money with still potentially nothing. So again, to me, if you're gonna hook it into a larger project of improving overall communication on any warrant articles, on any way to get a hold of the public, that's one thing. I would be, but we're going in circles. You have,
Yep.
we're not,
Yeah, I agree. Alright,
So when did you say the bids were due?
The night.
July
July 9th.
3rd.
Third.
The yeah, so it was at the bottom of the RFP draft is that they're due the 3rd, 9th is the next school board meeting.
You don't have any 4th of July plans, right? Other than the parade?
Alright, going through. Alright, any other questions on GMS RFP update? Still relatively on time schedule?
Looking great. 3
Alright,
minutes of it.
I know, I'll take it compared to yesterday. Alright, going into the governance.
Brian, was it hand delivered by July 3rd? Can we clarify that?
Yeah,
Oh,
this is double check. Pretty sure that's the last thing.
I can,
I think it says new.
Oh.
This is-
Are we expecting paper copies or are they gonna send it digitally now?
it's three paper copies and sealed envelopes, if I remember correctly.
This is.
Seems archaic.
Brutal.
Oh, yeah.
Seems archaic.
I'm sure they give us a digitized copy too, so it can be distributed.
Yeah.
Sealed bids, 3 copies due by 3 PM on July 3rd.
You're gonna get all the ones you're gonna get on July 2nd, because everybody else is gonna be gone for the holiday.
That's okay.
That's good.
All of
But
it.
I'll take them as early as they wanna give them.
Yeah.
Alright, for the governance, so the intent behind this was, Joe, you consolidated all the comments that we received into a single document. I think I pulled up the right document, cause it was the last one that you sent out.
Yep.
My intent would be just to go through this and approve the comments one by one, or disapprove, or,
There
Go
probably
from there.
need some editing.
Yeah.
Based off the comments. And the comments weren't like, change this word to that word. Some of them were conceptual that we'll need to make edits around.
right. So everybody ready for that?
Yeah.
Take a deep breath.
Did you send this to all of us, or?
Yeah, I had sent this to everybody over a month ago.
Okay.
It was sent on May 12th.
Can you do me a favor and send it also as a PDF rather than embedded in?
It's a
Yeah,
Word,
sure.
it was a Word
Yeah, it was an
document.
I
attached
can't
Word
bring it up on my
document.
phone at all ever.
Can't open a Word document?
I can't open up the comments on my phone.
Well, you need to have a Google Docs app.
if you,
It's
yeah,
not
if you
Google,
do it
it's
as
a
a
Word
PDF,
document.
you're not gonna get the comments either, I don't think.
Right, you won't.
So if the concern is the comments, you don't get that in PDF.
Right,
Yeah.
they're usually outside the
Yeah.
Just make the comments a separate file.
I'm
Those of us who
sure
are doing
there's
work on their
probably some
phone.
app you could download that will allow you to open it.
If you can open a Word doc, you can usually see them.
Yeah, usually you just open from Drive and it'll come up as the document.
Yeah. I refuse to convert to Google still.
Agreed.
Say
Alright,
a word.
You don't know what you're missing.
Oh, do I do?
yes, we
I do, and I don't miss it.
So it looks like we don't have anything until this first one down here. Citizen reps, 2-year terms, 7 total, not 9. Terms will alternate. Expiration, 3 positions in the first year, the other 4 in the second.
So I had made this comment, and so did a few other people, that we should stagger the representatives and not everybody leaves at the same time and comes back and a whole new group comes in.
Yep.
Maintain same level of institutional
Yeah.
knowledge.
So whatever the total number of representatives we have, we just need to stagger their terms and like pick a start date. So some people will end up serving a 3-year term, and then some will serve a 2, so that everybody gets on a different schedule.
Is everybody good with, I guess I'll just start, everybody good with 2-year terms?
Yes.
Okay, everybody good with 7 citizen reps? Do we want more, do we want
That's a
less?
school board determination, isn't it?
No.
No.
I don't think it's solely their determination, I think
Okay.
they're open to feedback, but 9 was, as someone, I think, put that number in there.
I'm just
9
basing
was what we currently, at that moment in time, was the current number of
Yeah.
citizen reps that was.
And how many
I
do you have
based it
now?
on
Right now you have
how many
8.
show up on a regular
Yeah.
basis.
You have
Correct.
to you're gonna have to let one of us go if
Yeah.
you go down to 7.
That was what I was trying to accomplish, is to make sure
Yeah.
that everyone who has been a part of this.
Is there more than
But then you're
7?
just,
There's
What am I
8.
missing?
4,
The gentleman who
5.
joins on,
Bruno.
yeah,
So it was 4, 5, and Bruno,
Bruno
was
was
6.
6.
and Rich.
Rich and Ray. I have,
They were selectmen.
no,
No,
They're still citizens.
they're citizens. We have 8 citizens reps right now. Bruno, oh wait, 7, I gotta move, hold.
I think you need an odd number.
you have
One,
to.
of course,
two,
yeah.
three,
And
four,
then-
five.
Okay.
Yeah, we have
Nine's
8.
fine then, if we actually have
We have
9. I was,
8,
I
so
was
we
thinking
have-
they were selectmen reps and not, I said
No.
we don't have that.
I will say this, technically we have 8, but Bruno has not been present since February 13th.
He's been online present.
No, he has not.
So he was for a couple of the meetings online present, but he
He's
has
not
been
present.
in and out sparsely.
So then you have 7 citizens rep, which are Denise, Jason, Joe, Marilyn, Ray, and Rich.
So, good with 7?
For some reason, I like 9, and I don't know why, it's because I think we have a better chance of getting a quorum with 9.
Squared number.
That's what Okay.
We just have to get 2 more volunteers
Square
then,
root of that.
that are gonna show up on a regular basis.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you could, once this kind of, especially once we start getting these bids and start making, I wouldn't be shocked if you could find another person, so.
I'm fine with either one, I don't have a preference.
Has anyone approached anyone on the committee saying they want to join?
Not me.
I started approaching people, run away.
It's true. Seen it, saw it at the parade.
I got a question.
So, it's up to you guys. You guys tell me.
Can we keep 9 but lower the quorum?
Well,
requirement?
that's later in the document as
But
to
I mean,
what speaks to a
I think that's the
quorum.
problem we've had is,
Right.
had a
Yeah,
couple meetings where it
Or we get the alternates?
yeah. So, I mean, there's that possibility, but later in the document, we talk about what we want to consider as a quorum. So, I'm just looking at this one right here.
I would suggest, if we had exactly 7 right now, I would say go with 7, because that's that. But with 8 current people, I would go with 9, because then you can just find another person and no one's feeling sorry, because they're not kicked off the committee, but.
The only reason I asked about the quorum is I wouldn't want to bump the quorum number up if we went with 9 versus 7.
Yeah. I think the quorum, yeah, so we can go look at yada yada yada, commented, requested, lack of attendance, bad faith, blah
Is
blah
there sort of
blah.
a standard that you would do for 9? I mean, is it a math problem, math man? That it's gonna be X percentage of the total, or?
For a quorum, I think you can decide what you want, I mean, like, you can just do a simple majority and you have 5 people, but, you know.
Well, we
I
got-
think you should keep an odd number, so you're doing 5 or 7,
Right.
right, like, so.
But I pass
But I
it.
think 5 then is your number, because 7 feels a little high.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a little more because you have your citizens rep, but then you add 2 voters after that. Because you
Right.
add a selectman and 1 school board member. That's your voting population. So It's either gonna be 7 plus 2 or 9 plus 2, so,
So it would be it would be 9 or 11 voting.
so you're,
Population.
5 or 6.
Oh, cause you're throwing in
Right.
the other additional.
Based on the voting cause you have the voting and the non-voting.
Yeah.
So,
Alright, so I can't find it right away, but I believe we said quorum was 50% plus 1. Or something to that effect, right? So it would be based upon voting membership, 50% plus 1 as a quorum, so.
So if we stayed with 9, you would need 6.
Right. Alright. I'm gonna be good with 9, 2-year terms.
I think that's fine.
Alright.
you can
So,
always adjust later.
I'm gonna say yes to that one, and we're gonna say,
If you wanna just make a note, Dan, that just need to detail that out, I can go back and kind of detail out the term breakdown.
terms, staggered, 9 citizen reps.
We don't have to make all the edits here, we can just decide on the points and then I can go back and make the edits.
Alright. When board reps, budget, blah, 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 possibly state house reps are speaking at the FIC meetings, I think it's important making abundantly clear they are speaking for themselves as a citizen or they are speaking on behalf of their respective boards.
I think sometimes personal opinions come across as a board opinion.
Okay,
And I think it's just important to know
Why
how.
would a state house rep be anything other than their own opinion?
Yeah.
He's not gonna be
When-
speaking on behalf of the state house,
He actually does speak, as he did today, about things going on in the State House.
but that's not.
And he always
Just
brings it up as a
informational.
state.
yeah,
That's why I said maybe.
So if you look at the way the
I
state
didn't want
is
it to be,
structured,
I didn't want it to be left out.
this is a Dillon's rule state, which means that the Board of Selectmen and the school board only can enforce the RSAs that are determined by the legislature. So the only control in the state is by the legislature. It's, this local control thing is common, but when a selectman speaks as a selectman's rep, he's speaking for the board. Same with the school board rep, he's speaking for the board. As a state rep, I'm speaking for the citizens always. So, to clear that up.
I honestly just stated you guys.
And then there's all my 10-cent opinions, but those, as a citizen, I guess they're both the same.
I think more with selectmen and budget committee. I don't know if that they have an official.
Oh, budget committee
opinion.
never
Budget
takes
committee's
a
not
vote, so I can tell you, it's generally my opinion.
But I think it comes across sometimes to the public that this
Perhaps,
is,
but there's also the recognition, like, I've been around long enough, I was drilled in that the only time you're actually truly representing the committee is when you're in the committee meeting. Outside the committee, you're not actually representing. So, I mean, sure, as a resident.
I think that when you're elected official, you're elected official. You represent the
Perhaps,
community.
yes,
I'm
but,
sorry,
yeah,
that's just the way it is. You
but
can say you look
as
speak for
a
yourself
resident-
all you want. but-
Okay, I had many a
I
conversation
know.
with Cindy in many past years.
I know.
So, as a resident,
Yeah, it's, for the selectmen, it's tough because the board doesn't give me any guidance. So a lot of it could be potentially my opinion. If the board gave me strict guidance, I will say what the strict guidance is.
Right.
But
and the budget committee
Yeah,
does
I
not
think
vote.
the expectation is that if you're here at the behest of the budget committee, that it's to bring the two-way communications where
Oh,
you
absolutely.
communicate to us what you think the budget committee is
Mhm.
thinking about what's going on, and you take back to the budget committee what this group is
The budget committee,
accomplishing.
right.
It does, so when you say comments like, you know, I don't know, just,
Sure.
I went to a junior, senior high school and it was great and I think it will work. That is neither. You're not communicating what this group is talking about and you're not communicating what the budget committee's feelings about.
Sure, and that's
it.
one of the reasons why we voted to be non-voting, is because the budget committee meets out of season once a month, maybe, because we don't meet in July. There is no way that we can actually represent the entire, we're not gonna take a vote on everything that occurs here. So I will carry back to the budget committee the opinions here, but I will also carry to you as a very active member of the budget committee, what I believe will be more likely to pass. Are the finances going to be in line with past passings and failings of warrant articles. So while there may be great ideas here, I'm gonna tell you as a person who's been on the budget committee now for a very long time, what my opinion is on whether it's gonna pass or fail. My goal is to help guide towards a election that would pass. But if I firmly believe that it's going to get run around in circles again, then I will speak and say, love your idea, it's not gonna pass, based on my firm belief is that it will not pass. The goal is to get something that will go past the voters, something that will actually solve the problem, so we're not spinning our wheels again for the next 5 years.
So I guess the end goal is you just want us to declare the next words out of our mouth, or as a state rep, or as a citizen, or as a
Can I have
selectman,
a
or?
placard?
It was just a thought, no one has to agree
I'm
with
trying to
it.
figure it
I'll
out.
just put a placard as a resident, speaking as a resident. Speaking my own opinions
Yeah, I mean,
as
this-
a member of the budget committee, based on my knowledge, working knowledge of the
Yeah.
budget committee.
So and I think with this, I do like the idea in some cases. With this, I don't think I would actually make a change to this document for this comment. It would just be a suggestion or best practice going forward.
General rule.
And I think it would be on all of us to ask those questions. Is this in your committee representation or personal opinion? Denise. So make the school district
The one we don't have.
Who is that?
I actually think,
representative.
I think one should have one too. They probably should have a vote, especially if we have one that's from the town and works in the school.
Well, there's two, now you bring it up to 10 or 12, it's an even number.
And we'd have
And
to
why
further
the
define that.
faculty rep and not the principal? Why the principal and the faculty rep and not the
I
facilities
personally
director?
would give everyone a vote, and
A paid
Anyone
employee
who's
should
here.
have a vote.
I think their voice is heard by the opportunity and invitation to come to the meeting, express your opinion. But I don't believe it should be a voting member.
And the reason I say that is because their livelihood depends on their paycheck that they get from the school, so their vote, they would never vote to impact their paycheck, so I'm just saying they should have a vote. It's
it's a good point.
conflict of interest.
Yeah, they can also control how much work they may or may not get put on their plate, right? Like, I'm
Well-
gonna vote no because I don't wanna do this thing.
Well, there's
Right.
that and their
Conflict
boss
of
is
interest.
here, like realistically. Well, my
Yeah.
boss is voting this way, do I need to
Right,
vote
right,
that way regardless?
That's right.
That's right, I know.
You will vote.
Not you necessarily, but you know, you're not, I mean, as awesome as you are, you're not gonna be here forever, so.
Yep.
You know
I
that enough.
would think you want to retire at one point, right?
Oh, someday.
I would say no to the vote, but I would recommend we have that person
Yeah.
start coming, I don't know who that person
As
is.
a non-voting member.
I don't.
The last
I don't-
member,
is this any suggestion to have a rep, because it's a great idea.
the last
No,
one
I
was
was there already.
No.
Okay, and we just haven't had.
Would it be
You haven't had one.
selected by, who would,
Yeah.
Well,
would
we
it be
said-
appointed by the school board, or do they get picked by the faculty board?
Schools, facilities should be the facilities manager, right?
That's what I was
Well, it
thinking.
I
says
just say,
faculty.
yeah, it says faculty, not facilities.
Oh,
So who chooses the faculty?
Because you
board?
have the facilities director on here already.
If left to our own devices, I would have the LEA give us a representative.
on the last faculty rep we had was Jess Sabona. And she was put out through, we asked the LEA to, query their membership, and she came out.
Especially if they're non-voting like that, which I agree, I think, I
Yeah.
appreciate the sentiment, but I don't think
Yeah.
there should be a voting representative. But, other things I've been a part of, you usually just ask your LEA to do some.
I will say, she was never kind of formally removed, the committee kind of expanded and redefined around that. So it may not be bad, and I can do it, or you can do it, maybe invitation
Yeah,
to her
just-
specifically to say, would you like to
Do
continue?
you wanna come back and
Yeah.
just put it up with if people are comfortable with that?
I mean, same question goes to number 3 there then.
The
I know,
facilities.
I think you said facilities, like, who's number 3?
I mean, that's Dave.
That's
Dave for
Ross.
us.
I know Dave doesn't really come once in a while, he'll hop on a remote call for this and stuff. And I haven't asked him or Julie, who's the business administrator, so he's really at all. Just
because I haven't, there's not any reason, you know, we can certainly change that, especially if we're gonna like really commit to this kind of document and who we expect to be here and stuff like that, so.
I mean, I guess we should decide that, right? If we don't feel that they need to be here, then we should probably just take them off of that list.
I actually, if there's no business for them really at this point, I wouldn't make them come to an extra meeting just
Yeah.
to sit there, you know?
When I originally built this document, that was the intention of the ex officio, which is like their members, but
They come.
you know, like
when-
ex
they come in
officio
when
board
they're
members, they're
flying.
kind of like there, but every once in a while they kind of come out of the woodwork.
They come if an agenda topic needs them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
like-
there'll be time that we need Dave to come in here because we're
100%.
talking about
Yep.
X issue at this school.
That makes
Because he's
sense.
got the expertise, and we can just call, we can just ask him to show up at the.
Yeah,
Like,
so,
We only have Dan here tonight because,
Yeah.
you know, a focus of this, you know, and this document, but Dan is here most regularly because the most regular focus of this has been, at least over the past year, has been GMS.
Right.
You know, Jake and Jen have popped in, but
Yeah.
that's about it, you know.
so if that was your intent for the ex officio membership, do we need to state that somewhere in this document? Is that ex officios to
I
attend?
would be happy to. Again,
upon-
I've stated before that I've been very uncomfortable that we've been operating under. These look good to you guys? Out of my head last
Yeah.
year around this time. So I'm all for
Yeah,
formalizing
it's
as much as we need
You
to.
add some language there.
Okay. So,
I would just add a note that they're not like attendance,
Yeah, that-
we're not gonna
that's-
zone them
Just,
for
just
not
like
being here.
attendance as needed.
yeah, well, and
Attendance
that,
dependent.
Yes.
that's all I was suggesting is we can go in like number 8 font right below ex officio membership in italics saying attendance based upon need of or subject of agenda.
I'm not ex officio, I'm
She's
not
not
voting.
Oh, okay.
I get my own little
Mine?
line as a resident. But yes.
I still haven't verified that it was actually December 23.
It doesn't matter. There was discussion way before that, because I went through the meeting minutes.
But there was an official like.
Oh, well, it slippery slope somehow became a voting membership after it was instructed not to be, so that was returning it to its
I
original
know,
state.
but I remember that specific meeting,
Yes,
and then there was a resignation and a
Yes.
reappointment. Yeah.
because I looked through the original appointment where it was stated, it will not be a voting member. So I'm like, what do you mean you're voting?
So to determine what members are gonna be 2 and what members are gonna be 3, you should just draw that by lot, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to pick a start date and then say,
Yeah, draw
your,
lots.
your 2 years starts now, your 3 years starts now.
I'll pick names out of a hat, I'm not voting.
I mean, I will also go
I'm
that
ex
I
officio. I'm even less important.
I mean
There you go, names in the hat.
I would suggest asking who wants to be 3 years.
Well, you can
Before
do
you
1 and
pursue.
2 too, you don't have to
Yeah.
do 3.
so that I guess my thing is I purposely wanted to push this meeting until after the RFP was in because I firmly believe that the selection for the members of this committee needs to be offset for the election years for the school board. Just that way there's carryover, handover, handoffs, yada yada yada, all
Would it
that
be-
other good stuff.
When would the year end? Does it end with the school's budget year of
I
June 30th, July 1st, or is it year, January 1st to December 31st?
I
Is
don't-
it
Election
election
year.
I
day?
I don't think that we have
So if you-
discussed that for this committee. Right? So
I have no
whether
opinion, I'm just asking.
and whether that's a school board decision overall or whether that's a
I would align it with the elections, that's when you're gonna have.
What are the selectmen subcommittees?
Elections.
Yes.
Election, they're
Yeah,
March,
election
March.
assignments change for everybody.
Yeah, and I would start with 2 and 3 years
Do you just
because
put
you
that
don't
one in
wanna,
there?
you don't
Align with
wanna,
election, so I remember to
That'll-
write it in there.
2 and 3 years?
yeah, 2 and 3 years.
Do you
You'll
count, do you
eventually
count the
catch
year
some.
we did?
3.
I guess my only concern with doing that, right, is we have in here to, people need to submit in writing to the school board. So if the school board's brand new and we have to select new members for the subcommittee from citizens, and so I was just looking for an offset time frame for the school board.
The entire school board's not new at each election, is it? Right? There's
No.
only certain,
No.
that's
It's
staggered
right-
too, there's only a.
Well, you never know.
You can make an
Could be the
argument
same
that it's
school board for
July
years.
1st.
No, but I'm saying
Yeah,
like
most
yeah, the whole board doesn't leave at once, right?
No.
Like
Right.
2 reps are up for vote each
2-2-1.
time.
2-2, yeah.
School board of selectmen's that
Yeah.
way,
Yep,
the
So
state
there's always
house
gonna
is
be
the
enough
only place
overlap that I
that-
think
Okay.
you're fine on that.
It's typically 2,
that works for
2,
me.
Are we
So-
coming up to 1 year? Is it just huge?
Yes, I have an update to 2 years.
So now we're 3-year terms, so it would be a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 turnover? Because you have 9 people, right?
To vote 3 citizens.
No, I
think
that was my mistake, I had put 3 in there.
But it's
in
only
eight
that
after
first
this
go
one.
around, right, that you need to do
Right.
that, right?
Right, only 3 years for the first term, and then
Right,
they
once that-
alternate every other year.
Then it's a 2-year term, right?
Right.
Once you get through that first set to stagger it, whether it's
Okay.
1-year terms and 2-year terms or
So
2
the
and
1 year-
3s.
Initiation.
And we allow them to ask for
But
reappointment
I
too,
think
right?
in this
What's that?
particular
We
comment,
can,
Carrie's
we
right.
can
it's
allow the
gotta be
members to
changed
ask for
to-
reappointment
Oh,
too, so.
Yeah,
And the highlight there. Because I remember writing this section and in a version of just thoughts, I had 3 down. It was a
I mean,
3, 3, 3, so it should be 2.
everything else in town is 3, so it makes sense, so, yeah, but 2 is good.
Yeah, so both of these I have update,
Yeah.
whatever that
align
comment
it,
is
align it with it. Yep.
for
But
2.
you're not banned from a second term, right?
No.
No.
Second,
There are no
third, fourth?
term limits.
Yada. To remove policy by school board legal.
Oh, sorry, I should say review. Oh, to run removal policy by the school board legal team is what he asked.
Comments? So Peter, I don't know about you, but I don't think I don't think we're gonna run a removal of a member of the FIC by legal.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
I think it
think
was
school
more
board's
asking
gonna
the-
veto that.
I think he was more asking for the policy to be run by legal to make sure it's a sound policy, not necessarily if you're asking for a particular person.
So lack of attendance at meetings, I mean, if the meeting is on some other night than Thursdays, Thursdays, house days,
Yeah,
session days. But like, I've shown up here at like 8:30 in the parking lot, you guys are gone already,
Yep.
but
no,
that's when I got back from Concord.
No, understood. So that's gonna be, so I guess, Peter, would we ever run this removal policy through legal? I don't think we would.
The only reason my opinion would be that there's a lot of subjective freezing in this. What is unwillingness to engage look like? What does confrontational and aggressive look like? Some feel I'm that way, whereas I feel I'm confident and assertive. So how do you determine what these words mean? What do they
Yeah.
look like?
I find you quite,
Huh?
I find you quite.
I think we could have them look at this policy and make sure that it's as clear as possible, clearly defined as possible. I don't
Okay.
think we would have somebody say, go to our attorneys and say, should we remove this person? Do
Right.
they meet
Right.
the requirements
No,
of this
yeah.
policy?
Yeah, you would have to, like, even in those instances you're talking about, right? Like, if we ever got to that point, you would have to
It would have-
defend your case and say why you think that the person was aggressive or unwilling, like, and then,
I think legal is gonna say, it's your committee.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Probably, that's fine.
2 questions.
$300.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One, I think I mentioned one of my comments. I think we have to have a place for responsibilities of
Yeah,
member.
it's in here. We'll get
Okay.
there.
Yep.
2, I don't think anyone is gonna fight being removed from the committee.
Well, it depends.
You'd be surprised.
There's
Yep.
probably a reason the phrasing is used as is,
So-
which makes me concerned. Like I said, my opinion is that it's open to interpretation and could be pushed back upon.
I do
I
think,
guess, hold on. I guess, I think the better way to state this is the school board has the right to remove any citizen representative from the committee.
Period.
Leave it. And then
But.
we can go through any of
I
that.
do
And
think
like
they
lack
have,
of attendance, I would
That's
say
easy.
lack of excused absences.
Yes.
So if you go to the next comment, that's in there.
Yeah.
I would suggest keeping something in, I think it was one of the comments, that the person being removed does have a right to find out why, and,
Yeah, it's in there.
okay,
Due process.
thank you.
But I think you can add some language to that, and Dan, if you just wanna go back up and make a note on it, like, we can add some language to this, make this a little more of a, like, the school board can remove anybody for any reason, which may or may not include this list.
You're serving at the will of the board.
Yeah.
Right, we all are.
Kick me out.
So we'd never do that to you, Larry. Sorry.
Kinda like at-will employment.
Which really isn't at will, but.
Right.
Well, you approve us, you can unapprove us.
Right.
Yeah,
I just think, and my personal recommendation would be cautious, because written as that way,
Yeah, I hear
does
what you're
it
saying.
invite people to be open and honest, or are they gonna be worried that they're gonna tick off somebody on the school board and be removed?
I think a lot of that has
So-
to do with delivery.
Sure, but I would just say, again, if we go down that road, we have gone down that road, and I think there's some discussions that may be had, should be had regarding that, because you want to encourage in conversation, but if it's too hard, if it's too, I don't know, heavy-handed, then the appearance within town could be that, well, the citizen reps better speak right, or they're kicked out. So I would just be very cautious as we word this.
You realize that they have to take this into non-public, so you're never gonna hear that conversation.
That doesn't mean the
Or
person
they
who's in
better.
non-public can't, well, the person who is affected couldn't make a case publicly.
yep.
Doesn't usually happen though.
Hmm?
Doesn't
Oh,
usually
you can try
Not
to.
the truth.
Right, next one.
Alright, so we'll be automatically removed from the FIC after failing to attend 3 consecutive
You
meetings.
can waive, yeah.
That's true.
Very
I-
unexcused.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that I mean, and maybe if it's not 3, maybe it's more or less, right? But it's 3 unexcused absences, consecutive absences.
I just wanna be careful, like, right, like, you don't wanna put yourself in a situation where you're, like, having to monitor this at a level where you're constantly having to enforce, like, oh, you missed 3 meetings, you're out.
Yeah,
Like, you want to have some wiggle room in here that it's like, people have lives, right? We all got things going on, things happen, like,
That's why I put
yeah.
unexcused.
So some language to make it so we're not like having to just be like,
Send an
3,
email out.
you're out, 3, you're out.
Well, literally, as a state rep, they can send the sheriff to you. If you don't show up there, they can send the sheriff to your house to get you to stay home. You
really
have to be
Yeah.
excused. It is worse than any school I've ever attended.
The budget committee has actually removed somebody from lack of attendance.
You should do that just to get rides.
In the
Save
old
your own
document,
gas.
before
You
removal,
don't
we
get
talked
the
about,
mileage stipend then,
we
no.
talked about loss of voting rights though.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I think so.
But now we're going from volunteer citizens to appointed citizen representatives.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of changes. If you're appointed by the school board to be a citizen rep, then
You better be repping.
to me,
You're responsible.
you were asked by the school board to have voting rights on this committee. So I will say kinda, a little bit of a moot point, but I think that would also be like a school board thing.
Yeah.
So I think just rewording this to lack of excused absences, I think overall,
I'm
Joe,
going with
it would be,
unexcused.
we should word this
Probably unexcused.
Yeah,
unexcused.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I said, lack of unexcused absences. I was gonna say, like, it's been a long day.
I get where you're going. I can work with that.
And then just reword kind of the opening statement of
Yes.
this overall
Yeah.
as a
Broader statement.
broader statement of you can be removed, you can't just come in and cause havoc.
Right.
Um,
But I mean,
but-
you could start with something that says like, the committee is, the purpose of the committee is to work together
Right.
collaboratively. And so therefore, there may be times when something's throwing a wrench in that, and so removal can proceed under the following things. Start with a positive. My opinion would be to start with a positive.
Compliment
And then go
sandwich.
into the, yeah, exactly.
Sir, yes, sir?
I would assume before it escalates, people on the side are talking to people. I would hope.
Yeah, and I think there might be something on the order of maybe with the school board, in non-public, we can bring up, issues
Mhm.
with an FIC during non-public.
Yep.
Because if the person is unaware, then that would, because like I
Blindsided.
said, if there's going to be subjectivity into this, what somebody feels is confrontational, somebody else may not recognize that they're causing that.
Yep.
Mhm.
So I would hope that there would be some remediation available prior to.
Because
Yes.
we've had some pretty fiery debates,
Yeah.
but they're debates.
I like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna be something
There'll be more to come.
This is not for you, this note's for me.
Okay.
So don't look at it.
Maybe non-public minutes, not non-public.
Yes. It's been a long
But I
day.
hope somebody would vote.
We can hit the edit button.
Word, why do you be like this? Alright, so Marilyn had a
I think that's the
suggestion.
same comment we talked about already.
Represents publicly as speaking for on behalf of the FIC or presenting their personal opinions as FIC actions. Yeah, so it would just be good faith and best practice going forward of saying on behalf of FIC or personally.
Well, hopefully, we end up with a consensus at most meetings and
Yeah.
we're representing the general thought of the board.
I will say that the FIC doesn't have any direct actions, right? It all goes up to the school board to make the decision. So I think it would just rest and die with the school board. But I agree with what you're saying, Marilyn. It's the same one that Denise made earlier in the document of being careful about what we're talking about and what we're representing or presenting as. So any action on this?
No, I think so.
Any member of the school board may call for the removal of a citizen representative. See,
In
extended
a
to
public meeting?
the FIC members. On the next school board.
Would they just say, how would that work then? I am calling for the removal of an FIC member, and then everybody sits on pins and needles and wonders if it's them? Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think that would have to be a non-public
I would
issue,
think so,
and then we'd
too.
have to give the person that would be the subject of that notification to be able to come in and speak.
Given that we're now all appointed, wouldn't it be as it was a couple of weeks or months ago in the school board meeting where a vote was taken?
Anything to do with personnel shouldn't be in public. It could be
Well,
construed as defamation of character, there's all kinds of other ramifications.
Yeah, the discussion is non-public, but the vote has got to be public.
The vote's gotta be public.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
it should go to non-public first, and discussion, and
So, I think this is just saying any member of the school board may call for the removal of. Joe, you said that you would like that extended to the FIC
And maybe
as well.
it in word that is best, like, so maybe it's something where an FIC member could approach the school board and request that, and then the school board could review a particular situation.
But I mean, at that point,
I
anybody
think
can approach
in the
the school
instant
board.
you're talking about, Denise,
Yeah,
that
that's what I'm
person's
getting at,
term
right? Like, it shouldn't just be restricted to
ended.
only the school board
Yeah,
can, like, some,
that makes-
we should be able to,
Right.
like, say, I'm
Yeah.
having an issue with Dan,
He
and I
was
don't like
appointed
it
for
as a
that,
character.
from that
I'm
point where he was
gone.
appointed
I know I am.
to the point we sent him to the school board.
That was the
So
difference.
that's why, that's how that ended up happening.
Okay.
So, but I do, so I will say, I will do agree with, do we need something in here that any member of the FIC can approach the school board to ask for a review of an FIC member's?
I would hope they would approach you as the chair first,
Yeah.
instead of any member of the school board.
Yeah, that would make
Do we
sense.
even
Then
need
Dan can bring
this
it to the-
paragraph here?
What?
I mean, we have said up above that the school board can remove members for, and we've given a list of, possible reasons. How they proceed to do it is really how the school board wants to govern themselves. Do we even really need this paragraph?
so, I'm thinking that that the chairman of the committee is gonna see whatever the behavior is, try to counsel the person on the behavior, and if the counseling doesn't work, they can ask the school board to remove him or
Well-
her as need be.
I'm
To
thinking
her
this-
point, this is getting more into school board
Process.
governance
How
and
the school
process
board
as
is
opposed to
gonna-
FIC.
Right, yeah.
Include on the next school board.
I would agree with
Yeah.
that.
There's a whole lot of ways
Those
to be
last three bullets
removed.
are all about that.
I'm not seeing anyone want to willingly join us.
Alright, so do we need to reword, call it this middle one to say, if a person is to be removed from the FIC, they have an opportunity to approach the school board at, an appointed time, or they may be asked to.
Again, I
Just leave it as that.
think with Ron's, Ray's point, that's school board governance, isn't it? Not necessarily ours.
Right, but I think just as a notification within the governance, if someone's asked to be removed, you have, there's wording to say you can go to the school board and ask to represent, or ask for an agenda item or a meeting with the school board.
You can ask why you're being removed,
Yeah,
and then offer your defense to that, right?
right,
Or
so,
not, you may not.
I think that's good policy. I'm just wondering, does that need to be our policy, or does it need to be the school board
I
policy?
don't think so, I think it needs to be school board policy.
Right.
But-
okay,
But
Yeah, I just
all-
think
all of
those,
these
I
policies
think
are
those
part of
three
the school board's
bullets
policy.
don't belong in our chartering language, that's what,
I kinda agree with you. I don't think
The
those
school
last three
board's
bullets need to be
business.
here at all. And should be put in.
if we say here, the citizen representative has the right to be heard by the school board, and then the school board doesn't really wanna hear them, that's the school board's
That's
problem.
school board, yeah.
We
Yeah.
can't make them.
Remember, the school board has to approve this, so they could take it out.
yep. So is the intent just to remove these last three bullets?
I think so.
Yeah.
Or the suggestion that they get added to some other school board policy document.
We're serving at the will of the board, really. That's what it comes down to.
Right.
An interesting point was brought up for someone who wanted to be part of two committees. Should there be something that if you're part of this committee, you can't be part of another committee? Or is
Can
that
or
just
can't?
Can't. Or
Such as
s-
what?
Such as what? Yeah.
planning committee?
What?
Planning committee?
Like the planning board?
Yeah.
Why? They don't conflict.
No, there's no conflict.
The only, speaking on my behalf, the only thing that is, actually you can't do is serve on the budget committee and board of selectmen, or budget committee and school board. That's the only thing that I'm aware of that you cannot do.
No, we did have this issue earlier because someone was running for budget committee.
Right.
And then had they won,
They would have
could they stay on or would they
Right.
become the budget committee
rep.
rep?
Mm.
If there's any place to iron it out,
But
it's
that's the
somewhere
budget
in there.
committee says, they would not
Yeah.
nominate a person.
Yeah. Can someone run for, can someone get on budget committee and come here and say, but I'm not the budget
So I
committee
mean,
rep?
if you
When-
wanted to make it such that a person serving on this committee cannot also, as a citizen, may not also be a member of the board of selectmen, the school board, or the budget committee. But I don't think you wanna get into the lower level committees, the planning board,
No, I think you could just say, I don't think you could be an elected member of an already represented
Right.
board.
So
Right.
if you can't be a
Selectmen,
selectman,
school board, and
you
budget
go-
committee are already represented committees.
Right, and I think that would be fine, but I don't wanna get into the weeds of, well, I'm in the FIC,
Yeah.
I can't do
I'm on
conservation
CBA.
commission or something, right? But I
Because
think
I'm-
it's
I'm-
totally
this-
fair, elected officials.
The CIP and the economic development committee, I'm on all of
For
them.
some reason, I thought it had come up. I could be wrong.
No, I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it
Just the
probably
big-
belongs
just the big
up in the
committees.
membership section, up at the top.
Just a cool kid.
But your school board rep.
That if
also,
you're-
right?
One of those,
Yeah, citizen representatives may not be a member of another elected board, or may not be serving as an elected representative.
of one of the non-voting groups, right? So
Well,
basically,
no,
school
'cause-
board.
Cannot be an elected member of an already represented town committee.
Yep.
Cannot be an elected member of
An already representative.
an
They could be the committee representative if
They
they
could be the-
Correct.
yeah.
assigned.
But even then, it's gonna be like Carrie's non-voting, right?
Mhm.
So it would be, okay.
Yeah.
So citizen rep cannot be an
But if
elected
JD
member
wanted
of
to
an
come in and
already
say, but I'm not budget
represented
committee here, we'd be like, well, yeah.
Yep, makes sense. I'm good.
Alright, so we got through this,
Down there.
we said, I crossed it out and said make sure that it's covered in school board policy, so that way when it gets back to the school board, I'll make sure that it's covered there.
Oh, that's all I want.
The citizen that is subject of removal
Oh,
considerations.
that's part of the removal stuff we just took out.
Okay, so,
Ignore that comment, resolved by removing the section.
All town board representatives and ex officio members will not be permitted to participate in the selection process.
Can we, yeah, she did.
The citizen co-chair will be selected by a vote of the citizen representatives. All town board representatives to participate in the selection process.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't make that comment. That's exactly what it says, isn't it?
No, so what you're saying is remove this.
Oh,
So that way the town board representatives and ex officio members can participate
It's
in
just
the
a really long
selection.
way of saying the selectman rep doesn't get to vote.
I think we might have to have that one checked, because I thought RSA states that you can't curtail their voting when they're allowed to vote. Believe me, I tried. I was,
no, I'm saying they
Who
should,
was it?
I think I was saying,
I
I
tried
have to
to-
remember what I wrote here, but this is
and
saying that they
the-
should be allowed.
Right.
oh, it should be.
Yeah, because
Alright.
it already states they are not permitted to
Okay.
participate.
Yeah.
And what Joe is saying is just remove this altogether.
And say they can participate in selecting the co-chair.
They can participate.
Yes.
Look at conversation.
So
So,
just for argument's sake, so I understand, like I could vote for the chairs.
for the citizen co-chair,
Would you, well, it says participate, so I mean, it means you can like speak to.
Why wouldn't you just take citizen out and just say roll call vote of all the voting members?
Yeah,
Because that doesn't include the principals and the
I,
super
at
intendant.
least me, like
I didn't
a
vote
school
for this.
personnel, I don't think I should vote on who the citizen chair is as a non-citizen.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. But you can grant me that thing, I might just abstain if that's okay, like if that's the case.
Yeah.
right, so we're
And
saying
maybe that's a
all,
private decision.
So then you
we're
can
all-
just change the citizen representatives to voting members.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would agree with that.
yep.
by a vote of the voting members?
Yes.
Alright, so
Which is what we did this time, right?
That's what we did this time, yeah.
denied.
Request denied.
I'm not used to a laptop that doesn't have a full keyboard.
Like a full keyword.
Yeah, like the number thing over here, like I'm used to the
Oh,
spread
well,
out.
keyboard.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have a little sidecar for mine because I can't do those numbers on the top.
I saw you saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's why
Which
I've got
lost,
the mouse
which is
as
why I
well.
closed my computer. I can't do it.
Alright, so we did that, yada yada yada, coming down here, update to person hired by the school board. Secretary may be any member
I
taking
think this
attendance.
was,
It was written before we
Yeah.
made that change, so I just put that in there that we have to update that to be the
Attendance and minutes of the school meeting.
minutes are gonna be
Alright,
taken by the,
so I'm just gonna say, cross out. Null and void.
I mean, I think you wanna still leave it in there that minutes are taken by
Minutes are taken by the secretary.
that hired secretary. It's a very short section, it's a one sentence section.
Needs to be taken by,
Just say minutes will be recorded. Who cares who's doing it? Just say minutes will be recorded.
And shorter.
Let the AI robots do it.
That's where it's going.
alright. Then I will undo that, and I just have that.
Good.
Yada, remove entire.
Yeah, we just talked about
bullet.
that, all set there.
Will this person still count towards a quorum? Governance. Quorum will be established when the majority of voting members are present. So we just have this as a simple majority. Any voting member who misses 3 consecutive meetings will lose voting privileges for their next meeting in attendance. Is this null and void, since we're gonna go by appointed members?
What do you mean?
They no longer gain voting rights by attendance, right? They're now voting rights because they're appointed.
Except the only problem is if you don't take voting rights away, the only thing, someone can not show up all year, and if you don't, like,
But then they're-
start the process of removing them, they can show up in March and have an influence with their vote.
But I mean, if they don't show up all year, then they will have met the 3 unexcused absences and you boot them.
It's
You know what I'm saying, but
consecutive.
you have to go through the process of booting them, they could just show up and vote, having not been
I
here all
think
year.
didn't we just have a simple vote? We hereby vote to remove said person from that. I don't think it was that big. We reached out to the person, said you're in danger of,
And they didn't respond.
they didn't, and then we just voted.
Oh, no, I'm going back up to where we said the lack of, the unexcused absence was a reason for removal.
Right,
But we have nothing before that, without
but I'm
some sort
saying
of.
you don't need this because if they've missed 3 consecutive.
I would say just add, that you need to add something to it, leave it in there, is that any voting member who misses 3 consecutive meetings unexcused will lose voting privileges at their next meeting in attendance.
I think we have that
Unexcused
somewhere
absences,
else.
because, I
You
mean.
could say something very similar.
That's in a different section. This,
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay, that's what this says, right?
Right, 3 consecutive meetings. I'm gonna say. Unexcused. Will lose voting privileges for the next meeting in attendance.
I'm just gonna bring up that you could have someone who comes to 50% of the meetings, who comes to every 3rd meeting or every other meeting, and they probably have missed more meetings than the person who just missed 3.
And
Yep.
we asked the school board to begin removal processes since it's at will,
Yep.
would be my thinking.
I mean, and again, we can't govern into an ironclad thing, right?
You know, but this quirks that one thing of missing 3 meetings. in a
Yeah,
row.
and then showing up and.
Yeah. And my question wasn't around necessarily, is that person losing voting rights? Was that person, does that person now count towards a quorum?
Right.
So if we
Yeah.
needed to have 5 people there, and they're the 5th person,
And they can't vote. then-
and they can't vote, does it still count as a quorum?
It
Yeah,
doesn't, because it says voting members.
voting members.
Voting
So they
members.
don't.
Next number, you
Yeah,
have
okay.
50% plus 1 of voting members.
The intent of this is to prevent people from voting on things they're not familiar with.
Correct.
Right.
So it's not really,
It was just a question I had, so there's nothing we need to do there, I just wanted to clarify that for my own education.
Is that gonna be good there? Do you want me to, like, respond to your comment to say add unexcused?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
I'm gonna suggest we have our meeting schedule out. Would be nice for 6 months, if not a year.
That's what I
usually
did,
are.
we're just coming up to the end of it.
They have
Because it's
been-
hard to hold people accountable for
Yep.
meetings when they have no clue it's next week.
I understand, there was just a lot of stuff going on at the end of this year. Along the lines, each voting member will be given the opportunity to speak uninterrupted on the motion prior to voting. Non-voting members will be provided the opportunity to speak, time permitting, at the discretion of the chairs. Present at the scheduled meeting. So this is
I think this is a-
just like an etiquette thing.
I think this is a good suggestion that belongs in that etiquette section that Denise suggested, and I think we haven't got to it yet. But there's not a section for it, and we should just add it as a draft, and it's a good suggestion, just like, everybody should have their opportunity to speak on whatever we're voting on, and
At all times and not be talked over in.
I'm going to suggest, it sort of seems to identify Carrie, that Carrie's opinion can be thrown in with everyone else's opinion at the same time. That she shouldn't have to speak last all the time, if I'm taking it the right way that it was written.
I
Why would you think Carrie has to speak last all the time?
The non-voting members may, I apologize, I'm getting old,
if there's
be allowed
time
to talk
permitted,
at the
if
end.
it's allowed, then I'd be allowed to speak.
That's how I took it.
I don't disagree with that interpretation.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they can
Uh-oh.
stop me, but I think it's just visiting.
will be given the opportunity to speak uninterrupted on the motion prior to voting.
I mean, that's the important part, I think, right? Like, that everybody
Yeah.
gets their opportunity to speak. I don't think it's
Being
anything about
respectful.
order of who speaks when, like, is,
We call it the Kerry clause.
Come on, more and more rubber bands.
Add to.
and I think that's,
I can't spell. So, you know what I mean
I know
with
what you
that.
mean.
It's
Yeah.
the, don't be a jerk.
I think it's on Dan and I to manage the meeting and make sure that everybody has their opportunity to speak, and the discussion is civil.
Don't be a jerk clause.
Yeah. Next one, change 1 to 2, include 1 session for public input. So I guess this is gonna be a question. School board has 2 public input sessions. Do we want 1 or 2? For this, specifically this meeting?
I would suggest one, but at the earlier one, when you first start, so
So
you
put
could
it in
have
the beginning?
time.
School board has 2 because they have one that's agenda and one's the like general audience with the board, you know?
Right.
I don't think we need the general audience with the subcommittee.
Budget committee has 2, thought being that if something is discussed during the meeting and somebody's watching, they have the opportunity to drive on down here
Yeah.
and make their opinion heard. There have been people who have done it, so don't laugh.
Now they're doing this.
So,
happened, we watched people walk in and put their keys down.
they're like, I was watching the video. No, but,
So we can update this to 2 and just put it in there.
So
I mean, it's
my
like the
personal
last several
opinion
would
would
be
be
at the school board, we just blew through it because no one was there.
right.
Yeah,
Alright.
I think it's fine. I would keep it consistent with what other committees do and what the school boards do.
I would do like the school board, one for agenda items and one for non-agenda items,
Consistency.
with the time clock.
Oh, I think it's, my personal opinion is I find that incredibly obnoxious.
The time clock?
I do.
Well, there are times it needs to go long, but we've never stopped anybody from talking.
Something
Here,
between
from
3
school.
minutes and 30 minutes would be a nice.
We had a long discussion about this at the budget committee.
At the State House, when we're
So this is
taking
that
public
section I just
input,
talked about.
it's 3 minutes and it's not a timer.
There's a lot more people.
You're
If you
done.
talk for,
Yeah, I know.
if you talk for 2, can you yield your last minute to somebody else?
Nope,
Through the
3
Litchfield
minutes.
School District and or Town of Litchfield.
Hundreds of people.
Draft a section of member responsibilities. Okay.
It's not part of that section where I labeled it, but I didn't have a
Right.
place to stick the comment, so it's just, we
Section
need to add a section about just,
Attendance, maintain professional decorum, respectful discussions.
yeah, what we just talked about.
Add previous comments on. As all other meetings in the town, including the school board members, should be allowed to have items added to the agenda at the meeting. To continue to allow the co-chairs to control the agenda and what is discussed clearly provides a means for the co-chairs to control the narrative of the meeting. It's, at the school board, we do ask if any of the board members would like to add anything or change, or to the agenda. So
At
we
the
can do
beginning.
that.
At the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, at the
And then you
beginning.
vote. And then you vote and that's the agenda.
Right.
Right, that's
Yeah.
a good practice.
Sorry, I should ask, is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any member who desires to include an item on a future agenda should notify the co-chairs electronically. Will determine when to add the requested item to an agenda. That's kind of what we already do.
I think the suggestion was meant to have it as a bullet in there, that that's how you get things on the agenda ahead of time.
Okay. I would like to add like a limit to this, like I don't wanna be notified at 3 PM and at 5:30, expect to have an updated agenda ready to go.
Especially if the agenda is posted
24
48 hours in advance.
Right.
I'd say latest it could be is 48 hours in advance.
Right. And then if,
And then if it
then
doesn't,
it's
bring it to the meeting.
you gotta bring it to the meeting.
Everybody good?
Does it give you time to update it though? Like if you say,
40 hours in 1 minute.
I just posted the agenda and you just emailed me.
Well, then it would just get added
Okay.
at the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
By a member may never reach the light of day. If you want to be transparent, the co-chairs will determine the validity of the request.
Yeah.
So he's questioning that, if and when to add the requested item to an agenda. So I can understand the premise of this. My only concern, if there is like a specific meeting reason, like we are here to review the GMS RFP update and that is it. but I think that could be something on the day we just say, this is the agenda, thank you, I'll add it to the next one or
I think
something.
we've done that at the school board, where we've had a lot and said, you know, we're gonna take this item, or there's another item we wanna talk about that's gonna be down the road.
Yeah,
We do say that.
Right, and you don't wanna get into whether something's valid or not. Can't that sentence just say the co-chairs will determine if and when to add a requested item to an
And
agenda?
for timing, not validity.
yeah,
And, I
makes
mean,
sense.
you're the co-chairs, you're
Right.
leading this, you can decide if something can wait until a different meeting, and if someone's unhappy, they can bring it up at the meeting and
They
ask
can
if
bring
you're
it,
at
bring it,
to
ask
the
the
end.
majority to vote it in.
It's always a challenge when you get timelines to meet.
Is not added at the next meeting, the determination of when it will be accepted as an immediate or future will be discussed and agreed by the majority vote of the FIC members.
I would just have a question, like, in this situation, if you denied a request, would you just wait for them to find out when the agenda is posted? Or would you say, hey, love the idea, we'll talk about it in 2 meetings? And-
Well, I would expect that would be the thing.
Yeah.
So I
We wanna
mean-
talk about next, we don't have time on the agenda this week,
No,
we're gonna put it to
so
a
I would
future
think
agenda.
open communication would help resolve his concerns. Because if I'm like, all right, it's not going on the next agenda, but in 2 agendas, based on timeline, I'll get to speak. Versus, because there's nothing here indicating that there would be a response in return. Like, if postponed, or if the decision of the co-chairs is to postpone, they will, inform the person requesting the item, I don't know. That way,
I hear what you're
Something like
saying.
that, yeah.
Makes sense.
to have the conversation, be clear we're gonna have a conversation, that way somebody's not feeling ignored.
Haven't we taken a vote before to include something on the agenda by specific folks? I believe we've taken a vote.
So maybe you can, and not so much a rule as ask that if you have an agenda item that needs to be added, a statement of why this should be today
Right.
and
Right.
and not 2 weeks from now. Just,
Yep.
why.
Why does this trump this?
Right. Just some explanation of what your agenda item is. I wanna talk about finances because something came up with the
Right.
Board of Selectmen.
It is responsibility of the co-chairs to set the priority or when it gets on the agenda. Joe, you know what I mean?
Yep.
There should be no time limits placed on the length of each meeting. To continue to limit the meeting length to 2 hours adds the ability of the co-chairs to control the narrative. So I'm gonna counteract this comment altogether because the school board lists times, time expectations and go from there. I will say I am not in favor of this. I think we need to limit it to a reasonable expectation of time length, both for the volunteers who are helping to record and just for everybody's set expectations on this.
Well, let's just clarify something, they're not volunteers, they get paid.
Okay,
So they're compensated for being here.
Yep.
But every time the meeting runs longer than planned, it's compensated for more.
Right.
money, so.
Yeah, I think we should always do our best to try to stick to the timeline. There are gonna be times where we're gonna go over, but
Yep.
you don't wanna have, I've been at school board meetings that were supposed to end at 9:30 and they end at 11,
yeah,
and it makes for a tough day.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's communications, it's, okay, we're almost at time, can people stay an extra 20 minutes? Or can
Right.
it's just courtesy.
Because there are times where
Where
we're
you
gonna run
want
up
to,
against critical
right.
items that
Yep.
need to be decided because of how it lines up with timelines and dates and stuff like that, and be
Right.
run over.
So I think this comment is suggesting that we're gonna set an expectation of time, but it's not critical
Not a
to
hard
hold,
number.
it's not a hard number.
I don't,
What I don't want is exactly what Peter was explaining is, I don't want, because there are people who feel like they wanna keep talking about a topic, it goes to 11:30, 12, and so on.
if I'm recalling this document correctly, I don't recall anywhere that says the meeting is limited to 2 hours.
No,
And we're just assigning the appropriate amount of time, and typically it's been 2 hours. If it needs to be 2 hours and 20 minutes, then so be it. But if we're running long, we can end it and say, we'll take it up next time.
Or could even end it early.
No.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
I would
That would be an
prefer-
appropriate amount of time.
I would prefer to leave the time undefined.
Yeah, that, and I agree with that.
The average meeting's.
But I
about
salute
2.5
you for
hours.
doing it in 2 hours.
That's
Right.
Appreciate it.
Our guideline is 2 hours, in
Right.
general speaking, but it's not
3:45 last week.
a restriction.
We've had some really long meetings, yes.
So,
So-
I mean, is his concern the overall time or a specific agenda item? Because he said time limits of an agenda item.
Yeah, so I think he was concerned more that we're like, okay, we're gonna talk about
We didn't get to
what
agenda
paint
items.
color we're gonna use in this room, and we're gonna give it 20 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, the timeline on the agenda, I mean, that's just for suggestions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
The budget
it's-
committee used to,
it's
but they never
guidance.
got, but then we were in the 11:30 phrase twice a week back in the day.
Right.
So, but you remember those days. And then there is if you expect it to be 2 hours, then there is the forceful, the polite nudge to try to stay on top of that. Because we do want to be respectful of the.
And if we're in a conversation about a particular topic and it's productive and it's going well, then maybe we'll table the last 2 agenda items and stick with this one for an extra period of
Right.
time.
Yeah, so I think it would, yeah, I think this bullet is fine as is
I would agree.
and not trying to
agree.
define and go from there.
Yep.
Cause we can select appropriate as, hey guys, we're spinning our wheels, it's time to move on.
Right, the horse is great.
I only said denied to Joe's comment. And I think that's it.
That's it. Awesome.
Checked it off, right?
Is everybody good?
I see you send it to the school
I don't
board
know,
just
it's
like that,
something
and let it make
that's
sense. So clean it up.
That would not be nice.
Just unmarked.
I mean, I'm gonna be asked about it anyways, so.
There you go.
So on that particular topic, I am happy to clean this all up and do we want to circulate it with this group one more time and then finalize it next meeting and say it's good to go to the school board, or?
I personally don't need to see it again.
Yeah, just send it to the school
Okay,
board.
okay, I'd say clean it up and just send it on over.
I like it. I like it.
Didn't I
Efficiency.
see-
Send
did
a
I
copy
see
to
the,
everybody and send it to the school board.
I like
Did I
it.
not see the frequency of the meetings in this document
That's
also?
next.
It's on the
That-
agenda.
I thought it was,
That's
I
next.
thought it was
Agenda
actually in the document too, though, wasn't it? Did I see the 2 days?
I don't think
No,
I thought I
frequency's
saw
in
it in
there.
there, but
Yeah,
maybe you
'cause-
flipped back and forth when I saw it.
You want the flexibility there too.
Right. You don't want to be restricted to.
The restriction is typically the access to the room.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, typically, most committees are once a month.
Yeah, I think I think the hope would be that this gets to once a month
Right.
eventually. Like, obviously,
Unless you want to
pressing
set a
things such
minimum.
as the EMS thing is there. you
I think there's something
frequently,
about,
but-
look up July.
Yeah, I thought I saw it.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, twice a month during the school, oh, okay.
It's the twice a month I got, like, that my
Right.
attention, I thought we were.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what Denise, you brought up at the last meeting. I will say that I don't wanna hold this to twice a month. I would like to do once a month and add extras as needed.
Say, and meet at least once a month at minimum,
Or
and
as
meetings can be
required.
added as required.
Is everybody okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Denise, are you okay with that?
Sure.
I,
I don't want to meet more often. Less
Yeah.
is good.
okay.
If we got to the budget committee schedule, we take July off. Just saying.
If you also meet like 6 times in
Right, then you
November.
go through hell 6 weeks.
That's some people's
November's 2
perspective.
weeks and you meet 6 times.
Yeah, once a month or as needed. Once a month, at least once a month and as needed.
Yeah.
You never know, you might need to meet 3 times. in a month.
Yeah, I mean, once we have a contractor helping us, it might be.
There's gonna be
you know,
special meetings.
They're available on these dates and, you know,
Yep.
you don't wanna skip the existing meeting, but we wanna
Maybe,
talk to them.
You take a very short process and make it very long if you could only meet once a month.
Yep.
Right.
Right?
maybe once or twice a month and as needed as you recruit new people to join the committee so they know the time commitment.
Well,
It has
I'm gonna
to-
add a new language here too, because we'll meet at minimum monthly, and then we may wanna put a line in though.
Or is
Though
it-
actions may require additional meetings and or work sessions. Cause I'm seeing like working with the contractor, we're not gonna call that a meeting, it's not gonna be a public meeting, it's gonna be a gathering of the group, it's a
Right.
work session,
Yeah.
so. Then you don't have to do the public notice, you don't have to have then you, like, if we call it a meeting, then we're doing public comment on both things. We have to make sure we maintain the quorum, whereas it's a work session, it's just,
Okay,
You
so
know-
how do you want me to phrase it? So
I
have-
just did, you can't make me do it again, Dan.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
gonna ask you to do it
All
again.
right.
You did a good
Rewind
job
the
too.
tape.
At minimum once per month and as needed.
The committee will meet
We don't need to wordsmith it right now, I get the idea.
Think about it.
once per month at minimum,
Yep.
though
Once per month.
projects and tasks may require additional meetings and or work sessions.
Footnote what a work session means.
That's right, we all know.
And if I could make a suggestion,
Yes,
the
sir.
fourth Tuesday of every month is typically open in this space.
Fourth what?
Fourth
Tuesday of every
Tuesday of every
month.
month.
Oh, if we could get to a
Fourth
regular
Tuesday every
date.
month.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
that's off
That's
school
why-
board, cause school board's first and
No.
And
third.
it's opposite of school board, it doesn't conflict with the budget committee. The only-
Unless you
the
get
only
that
meeting
weird one
happen-
where like
Book
the
it.
fourth Tuesday is also the third
So,
Wednesday.
if you can decide on that, we can lock it in. There obviously will be conflicts that'll come up through the budget season, because there's a lot of times
Yeah.
double meetings, triple meetings.
No,
stuff like that.
not anymore. They didn't.
Yeah, I'm talking about like the school board does, the board of selectmen
Yeah.
does, but,
Lock it in now and you lock it. Oh, the-
Just a
The only-
thought, it's gonna take you then right before Thanksgiving, right before Christmas, and potentially right through the school vacation weeks.
Yep.
Just a thought.
yep,
And I have a standing meeting on the fourth Tuesday.
Oh,
drive me nuts. Can't help you then. Well, the other way would be, the third Tuesday every month, but that goes up against the school board. And then,
School board meets on Wednesday.
yeah, but it's a Tuesday. there.
Just the same week.
Yeah.
So we could do the second,
Good point.
potentially the second Tuesday of every month. The only conflict is rec commission, which no one on here serves on rec commission.
Is the rec commission in this room?
No, they're across the street.
So
I have no preference.
I'm gonna leave this here because I don't wanna label
So you're
like
saying it's gonna be
a
Tuesday.
time of the month. But I would say the second Tuesday of every
I'm just trying to
month,
help.
Yeah, no.
is that like through year end barring special
First Tuesday around
circumstances?
Thursday anyway.
Well, I don't think it needs to go in this.
No, no.
No, I'm just asking in general. Cause otherwise I'm gonna save this and just move on to the next thing.
Save it and move on.
I like the second Tuesday.
you do.
So we decided, I'm gonna do this in my own notes. Monthly, second Tuesday of every month.
And is it safe to assume you cancel next week? Like clean the calendar up?
I did see that.
Okay, so is everybody good with that?
Um,
Monthly, second Tuesday of every month?
I think so.
Sounds good.
You could have told me it's any day of the week. I have no idea what my
So
schedule
that's
looks like that far
July-
away. I have no idea.
Well, I mean, like, that's gonna be starting like next month,
Yeah.
July 8th, right?
July
It
8th.
would
I am
be-
here, okay.
It'll be, yeah, that'll be the first one, yeah.
It's 5 o'clock.
5:30.
5:30?
We have.
Yeah, well, I
Calendar
figured
for
we would
next
keep
week.
the same time frame. Start time's 5:30.
Look at Diane for guidance. I don't know.
So,
Is the school board gonna extra meeting next week, next month then?
no, we only have one meeting next month.
But I thought,
Isn't that the ninth to discuss all the RFPs?
yeah, but he just said
Do we
the
wanna do
second
that?
week is the opposite of the school board, but that's the same. The second Tuesday would be the
It's
8th.
because of next.
It's
Just because it's July.
July,
It's just July,
because the Tuesday starts on the first,
Got it,
and
got it.
that's
Yeah.
throws everything off a little bit, but.
So what
Okay.
happens then? Alright, that's fine.
Alright, so, John, can I give you the action to start booking out?
I'm doing it right now,
Perfect.
Amazing.
He's done.
Awesome.
because I'll forget when I walk out the room.
Alright, so
We're almost on time. Keep going.
CIP. So, Brian, I know we had this on a meeting a long time ago, and I gotta find where I had it. So, I didn't know if you wanted to go talk through this a little bit. It's, I have probably an older version.
No, that is the version right there. So we're trying to get a capital improvement plan, for the district in place, so we can properly budget stuff out for a long time. We kinda skipped, this year, cause we did the onsite insight thing this year, and already had the budget kinda going for this year. So kind of lead us, kind of moving forward, that might be a older version we have up there now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
The one in front of me. Actually, if you click on working plan 1 at the tab at the bottom. So this is taking all the stuff from the onsite, and this is just a starting point. This is just taking the information from the onsite insight report, making some slight adjustments for various things, shifting everything by 1 year because we had already developed this year's, the 26 budget, FY 26 budget, and then projecting out the cost of everything, and then making some other shifts. And then what we would like to do, or what we're trying to do, is determine funding sources for some of these things. Some of these things might come into the budget potentially, it could be a funding source for this type of thing. It could be end of the year encumbrances, that could be something done. Or it could be done using our reserve trust funds, or we don't, bonding eventually down the road if that's something we did. Or we don't exactly know how this is gonna get funded at this point. This is more of like, as again, we're trying to think of a plan, kind of moving forward. I'm not married to any of this, this is just a starting point, to start discussion, to start to have a conversation on where this is. Ideally, in a perfect world, I would love a committee such as this, the facilities committee, to give feedback on this so we can collectively make adjustments when we see different things kind of coming on over time and stuff like that. And people can have input on when we start to address some of these building level type of things and everything like that. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. This just has CHS and LMS on it right now. We kind of did not put GMS as on here yet because obviously,
That's fine.
depending on how GMS unfolds, with the stuff we have out for bid right now, would radically change what the capital improvement plan looks like for that building, so.
Didn't you just,
That's it in a nutshell.
didn't you just approve like 14 things last night with
We
the end
did
of the
approve
year?
some stuff at the end of the year encumbrances last night, so.
This was more of Brian and Julie started talking about this during the school board of, hey, we're trying to take the good things and start mapping out a plan. So one of the things that Brian mentioned at that was, could be a function of the FIC beyond the GMS RFP stuff. Is that we can start looking at this, does this make sense? Do we wanna move some stuff around? What do we think going forward on what this plan looks like in funding sources? So it was kind of a short, sweet intro.
Yeah, and this is just what Onsite Insight gave us, and it's the pricing they gave us, that's it so far, right? Just the starting point, so we can adjust kind of later on. And as we chip things off, like, I forget exactly where I put it, but we painted the SAU this year. We honestly just went and bought our own paint and painted it because I wanted blue, well, my daughter wanted blue walls in my office, so I went and bought blue paint. So we did that work.
Makes sense.
The Onsite Insight had that as a 2000, you can't see my screen, that doesn't make sense. Has it as a 2028.
Do you want this?
No, it's okay, this is such a minor thing.
Can you scroll?
Has that thing as a 2028 thing of when it would be done, and a cost estimated
up?
it, so we put it as a slightly different color because that work got completed, so we now know we don't have to do that, and then a little note of when that was completed, to just give a very simple example of how this could kind of play out over years. So when we talk about, we go back to this past March when we put our warrant articles out, and one of our warrant articles was for the reserve fund related to building repairs and that type of stuff. And we reference a long-term plan to address the roof and et cetera at CHS. This plan would reflect that target year of, I think it was 2031, of when we would want to do that work.
I think it's a good use of this group's time, though, is
I
to do
would
this.
love input from this group, I think it would be great, yeah.
So the way I am interpreting what you're saying and Vision is working is right, you got these things already flagged, right? Then we
Yeah.
get budget number done, but obviously those could change. And you would take us through what that need is, explain okay, gym equipment, what is that, what does it mean, what are the needs there? And we would put our support behind it as a committee and say yes, we support these 10 line items for 2027.
Yeah, Or prioritize, so like, again, we kind of shifted everything a year just from a budgetary standpoint, but like, you know, 2027, we start looking at developing that fiscal year thing, there is a long list of stuff here. We're not gonna be able to put all of this stuff in the budget, right? So coming to this committee and be like, hey, where do you see some priorities? Do you see a priority in the gym equipment? I'm gonna say like, this committee, not to pick on gym equipment, might say like, hey, that would be our, on the list of things in 2027 here, would be our least priority thing, where making sure that, you know, it's a singular thing.
Well, like for instance, that's too important to roll the dice on end of year encumbrance
Right,
leftover, that really should be a budget, we, you know, change the designation
Yeah,
there.
or maybe just like have ideas and suggestions of anything related to this list and stuff, you know?
Listening last night after we talked for about 6 months about these emergency egress doors at GMS.
Yep.
It's just a little frustrating that in 5 minutes they were passed when we couldn't do anything for 6 months before then. I know the money comes available at certain points in time.
Yep,
That's why.
that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we could talk about it all we want if we don't have the money.
but if we can budget those egress
But it helps
doors in
them plan.
advance, like that's the
Right.
idea, right?
Can we scroll to the
So,
bottom?
yeah, and like, cause we did at the bottom, I wanted to try and develop like running totals so people had an idea of like numbers where the stuff, again, this is very preliminary.
No, I know, so I have my input as a budget committee member.
Yeah,
One, as a voting member on the committee, my personal opinion would be, I don't like the EOI line. To me, when I'm looking at the end of year funds, tells me that the budget, as a budget committee member, tells me that we're baking in an additional 131,000, or an extra 56,000, 53,000. Now, it's okay to me if you have like a list in your mind of $131,000 worth of things you put against it, but if I see this in the budget, I'm thinking, my budget is already over $130,000 too high.
I do understand what you're saying, so I give
So,
you.
for a budget
yeah.
committee member, I wouldn't like that line.
So to give you what I'm trying to represent,
Yeah.
maybe there's a different way to represent it. It's a priority that like is not as important, if that makes sense, right? Like, if we were to talk about painting,
Right.
correct? Like, it'd be great to paint
Mhm.
stuff, right? And make it look fresh and do a fresh coat of paint. But I don't think that's gonna override our priority to an HVAC repair, something that we would budget for potentially or something like that. So those are what we're trying, like when we made a category for EOY, it was those like, hey, it'd be really nice to do this thing.
If the
Like,
money's
we-
available.
I mean, we
the
could
money's there.
we could talk logistics, like the
Yeah.
total cost for me, my opinion, would be that it'd be more level across. One of the big things in the budget committee we try to avoid
Yeah.
are spikes and
100,
dips.
yeah,
So I would like to see a year with 130,000, or 2.5 million, and, you know, 287,000. My tax rate's gonna go up and down, so I would want
But
to
you-
try to level
But
that
just
out.
to help understand, because I think that's a good point, that total cost is total cost, right?
Mhm.
Budgetary, we would try to see, you see the budget one
Right.
below it, try to keep that pretty uniform.
You've
like,
built up
across
that
the
trust
years.
fund to 2.2
That
million.
2031 is that targeted roof replacement at
Okay.
CHS where we're building up the reserve fund. So
Okay,
the bulk of it, if you see like the third line down, reserve trust fund, we're taking ideally at that total cost, $2.2 million out of reserve to account for that.
but
type
that
of
you're
stuff.
not accounting for actually building the reserve in your funds. either.
Yeah, cause that,
Because that's gonna be another
It's gonna be a
additional.
warrant article.
that'd be warrant articles, right?
Right,
So
right, but
could-
it's still gonna affect the cost though, like if I'm building up my fund, I still have to put aside the taxes to build up said fund.
Right, and this isn't doing tax rate in here,
Okay.
like this, like the budget, like that bar right there, like that column is like, what do we put in our budget? Like, we're gonna put yearly HVAC repairs in our budget, right? Of $20,000 that we're gonna do, that we are anticipating that we'll do over the course of the year, that's pretty consistent. So that would be in that operating budget that we're
Mhm.
doing. We're just trying, and if there's a different way to, that's the feedback we're looking for from this committee, is how to explain this to people, so
And I would also
we're
ask,
transparent.
what is unknown, it keeps fluctuating, so is it a percentage?
No,
Is
it's
it-
just, I don't know where the funding source for it is.
Oh, it's an unknown source of
Yeah.
funding.
Yeah, so
Okay.
each one of these lines is the roll up of the labels that he put on the
Right.
funding sources.
Right, but that end of year thing should, if we can do it at end of year, it should be in the budget. EOY shouldn't be it shouldn't be a budget, it shouldn't be like
Maintenance costs should be.
maintenance
budgeted.
costs, it should be in the maintenance budget. That's why we're in the state we are at GMS, because we said, well, maybe we'll do that at the end of year funds instead
Yeah.
of, painting is nice, but
I
painting
don't
is
But
also
I think we do
required.
have to be honest in the budget process that we're gonna be asked to reduce our budget, right? And there are things that we want that we could circle back with at the end of the year, right?
But
Like if we're talking about painting, using that example. If we're gonna talk about priorities in the operating budget when we're going through that proposal process, probably one of the things that would be more likely to cut off the jump is like painting projects, right? Like it's not like I have to have this to operate the schools. But it's one of those things, if we're looking at, we have some extra money at the end of the year, would be a nice thing to circle back on. We're going to the summer when we can actually achieve the work of painting stuff and like doing all those type of things. So just, and I'm not married to any of this, I just was trying to think of a way to articulate budgeting, like where
Yeah,
the
not
money's
everything
coming
can
from.
get into the budget, right? There's gonna be priorities.
Right, but the budget committee and the school board, they need to work through those, the request should go in. And then the discussion happens at the budget committee.
So if I'm reading 2026,
Which
I'm
I-
seeing, like, budget is 0, end of year, those are the nice to haves, I guess, based on.
I guess, yeah, I don't know.
Can be the lower priority, and then the unknown is 53, so I'm assuming unknown are the must-haves.
No, the unknowns is I just don't know, and like they may not be things that are that important, right? Like,
Scroll up to one.
like this is an unknown, again, yeah, I'm not attached to the thing, I'm assuming.
So I think
I'm attached to the thing.
there are a couple
So
of different
the-
approaches.
The classroom walls in room 28 identified on the on-site insight report as needing to be painted, right? I don't think we're making or breaking anything about that. I don't think we need to budget for that paint to paint one classroom, right? So I just left it as kind of an unknown cost. I didn't want to not include anything on that on-site insight report, so I included it in there and we'll figure out that cost at some point. Maybe that's something that happens just over the course of the year when we're painting other rooms, maybe it's something different. I didn't think it warranted any other category, but again, bringing it to this committee is for this feedback, so I'm open to whatever.
And Ray, to go back to your point about it should be between the school and the budget committee. I don't disagree with you. I think what they're looking for is us to help them plan what they're gonna take to the budget committee.
I agree, but like these things, all this painting, these are things that make the build wear better, look better, the freshening thing, everybody's saying it looks dated. I mean, a couple $1,000s worth of paint in a budget the size of the school budget should not be an issue. It shouldn't go to like, if we can do
But
it at
every
the end
time
of
you
year
look at a
fund.
piece like that, it just keeps adding
It
up, right?
keeps going
Like,
down, it just keeps going down.
So my,
So that-
go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I just think that they should ask for what they really need. And see where the chips land at that point. That gives the voters a choice. The budget committee and the school board and the voters all get to decide. I think if it says EOY on it, it should be part of the plan. And then inside the plan, prioritize the pieces you need, right? It shouldn't be just, well, this is gonna be end of year. It
But-
should be in the plan, these are maintenance items that need to be done, and then you can prioritize them. You can say, we don't have money this year for paint,
And then if you have 130,000, you
then
just
you have
return
money
it.
for paint, yeah.
You just return, like, if it's already planned, so my suggestion would be to try to find a way to level fund throughout the year, and then you could, or throughout the, whatever your time frame is, there's no major spikes, and you say, all right, this is what we need for 2026. Individual voters aren't gonna necessarily worry about how much each you're doing for paint or whatever, like, there's a plan, it's gonna cost me $300,000 a year, you put it, this is the plan, you can go look at it, we're in year 2027, if you wanna know where the 300 grand is slated for, you can go look at your column. If you could get into an amount that's consistent and reliable, I think it'd be easier to sell to the voters.
So if we talk about the,
Yep.
the roof at CHS, which is gonna be $2.3 million.
Mhm.
If we put $500,000 a year for the next 5
5
years, 6 years, is the budget committee gonna
I
approve that
would
or cut it?
I'd put that as an independent warrant article request, so it doesn't sink everything else. Because a roof is me as a taxpayer, I would rather pay my self-interest, take the 500 grand, bank it, get decent interest, and then actually my $2.5 million roof may have only cost me 2.3, because all the interest generated will help offset the rest of it. So I would leverage interest myself, but you're not gonna want an individual warrant article for painting for 2,500.
No, I agree.
But a roof of that
Bigger concern
size
is-
and cost, you could easily, I advocated for the fire truck. We know it's gonna be however much, we know it's gonna have a lifespan of 20 years. Final price divide by 20, and that's what you should put aside each year.
But then it becomes a warrant article.
Yes, but then
Right,
if,
so then you may or may not get that money, and the
Right.
roof's still gonna need to be replaced.
well, you still have an end date then, right? Then every year that doesn't pass, the average annual amount goes up.
Which makes it less.
So you
Less
don't,
likely
But
to
but eventually, what, you're gonna get condemned?
No, at some point,
So-
we're gonna have to do it.
So the hint is, next time, for the 30-year roof, we put aside 1/30th of it instead of 1/5 of it.
I think that's good. But in terms of this, you don't like the EOI descriptor. Is there a tier description that is better? Because not all facilities and maintenance needs are gonna be the same. And I think there's value in trying to articulate that. Maybe this isn't the right place for it, but.
I was just say, I appreciate, just because from my lens, when it comes to like the years that we actually have EOI, there's always like this, all right, so what should we get? As opposed to, I would love to be able to go back to a list and say, it says that we should be working on this, and this, and this, and this. You know, as opposed to like, it's just an annual thing, so I actually appreciate taking that and listing it, and again, it's not, we're not banking on, we really hope that we have money, but on those years that we do have an underspend, well, we also have these priorities, so I think there is a benefit to having some categories, maybe that's not the plan, but that,
Yeah,
you
maybe
know.
that's not the proper category title for it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I just
Because,
think
I
it
mean,
should be in
it
the
can,
plan.
right, it can go either way. I mean, you have a budget, but, you know,
It's a
so
budget.
if, you know, two fewer
fill all our
special ed
positions.
kids
I mean,
move
that's
into
really what it
town than what you budgeted for, you might have a little bit of budget left at the end of the year from that bucket. But if the roof fails
I
and you
mean-
have to go fix the roof now and instead of
Yeah.
2031, in any given year, you're gonna be
I mean,
at the end of the year not
So-
having any end of year budget,
I mean, can we just rope that into unknown? Cause unknown is deprioritized anyway from your top ask. And so is the end of year of, here's what if we have money, here's what we would like to do. And it would be the same, I mean, it's the same idea as the unknown. Here's plans and tasks. And if we have money, then we hit it.
From my years on the budget committee, and I'm with her on this, I would rather you told me, in here, here's the repairs and maintenance that need to be done. We have a plan, just like that.
Mhm.
But put them all in there, don't hide, in effect, just by
No, I don't think
sticking-
anybody's suggesting
There's-
that.
It's not
But
hiding.
they get presented to the
Put them in the right
budget
order.
committee. They get presented to the budget committee and to the people of the town, so they see that these things need to be done.
We also know not everything we present in the budget's gonna stay in the budget.
That's correct,
Yeah.
but if it's cut, we know exactly what's cut, and then if you have end of your funds, well, there's money, right?
Yeah, and I think that's
But
what.
I think we get.
I think that's what he's looking for.
That's what
Yeah,
we're trying
but-
to do, I think.
So realistically, me as a budget committee member, I'm looking at total cost. That's what I'm looking at. If you had a list at the end of the year that says, you know what? If we had 131,000, this is where we'd spend it, sure, that's cool supplemental information.
Yeah.
Doesn't do away with the fact you still think you need 185,000.
Well, I
If
mean,
you have 131,000 offset, that means now, I guess it's where I'm taking the end of year, I guess. I'd rather have the maintenance, pay for my maintenance, and if I end of year, instead of putting it towards it, give it back to the taxpayers.
I was gonna say, I guess I'm trying to do this, right, is, I guess, the way that I can see doing this, supplemental information to the school system to have those breakdowns as to where they would expect to try to get it.
Yep,
But to what you guys are saying is focus on this budget line.
yep.
And that's what we put in there, and here's maintenance, here's paint, here's light bulbs, here's ceiling tiles, here's mouse traps. Put it in there, list it all out, and that's what,
What if we,
that's roughly
And-
leveled.
What if it-
I do like the idea of having, as a person,
Yeah.
speaking for myself, I like the idea of having the list in advance because too many years, new committee, it's the end of June and we're like, what is your list of encumbrances? You know, I'd like to say, yes, I support, I don't support, I can't stop you, but I can raise a ruckus. So like,
Yeah.
but if you have it in advance, then you're like, all right, come June, I know where you're spending the extra funds.
I agree, and I think that's what I was hoping to achieve with this, right?
So
We
I
had
like
that
it.
meeting last night,
Oh,
right?
sorry.
You're right.
I would love to have
Yeah.
just pulled up this sheet and be like, let's just go one by one and start clicking them off.
And then
right?
have
You
time
know,
to have that conversation, so I like that.
And that transparency piece of it.
But the reality is, I think budget-wise, you need to budget the cost, and if you have the savings, great.
So is there a way to, cause I do, as we plan for things, still wanna prioritize stuff, so
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
are like doing that, so is, maybe instead of using a fund, I think,
Should be level 1, level 2,
Like,
level
yeah, I
3.
yeah,
think
so
just changing
they
that to
should be ranked.
priority.
well, I
Yeah.
still want, this is the good feedback, if you can scroll down just a little bit, Dan. I do think designating what is gonna be from the reserve trust fund is
Yeah.
important, away from the budget, right? Cause
And
you
the
see the
possible
total cost
bond.
line. And bond, nothing's here bonded at all,
Right.
but there could be in the future, right? Because if you just focus on total cost, I don't know if we can ever make that uniform, right, like across the board,
Yeah, flat.
because you're gonna hit that big thing.
Well,
we're
you would
doing
have to
the-
shift things, right, so maybe there's something in 2028 that gets moved to 2027, you know, maybe.
But a
maybe
roof's gonna be $2.3 million, we're never gonna
That's
level
gonna,
that.
right, but what you could do
It's
for
gonna be
that
a spike.
2.3 million, you say, I've got 5 years, divide by 5, and you can do that separately.
Yeah,
The
So
other ones,
may-
though, you could.
Can I ask, maybe under the total cost, you should put, and I'll just use this word, I can't think of a better one, it's just impact. So you have that 2031 year, it's gonna say 2.517 as the total cost, but under that, the impact is only 300 something thousand
Because
because
we've already banked.
you've banked it, you're
Bank
2
the
point,
money
you know,
out,
so
right, yeah.
then you're looking at the impact number as opposed to the cost number.
Because I would-
Wait, use the reserve trust fund.
Yeah,
So-
it just makes your eyes go, what, you know?
So I guess the way that I've done this in my business, right, is I have almost two categories. I got a plan for authorizations, what am I authorized for funding, and then I have a plan that says, here's my planned expenditures. So then that way I know that if it takes me 6 months to go get a $2 million project approved, in our case, a warrant article, or, you know, we're asking for an authorization via warrant into the reserve, $500K a year. And then my planned expenditure, 2031, I'm gonna go spend 2.5 million
Right.
out of these various authorized.
It's like, you can
authorizations.
almost pull the roof out of there because it would be its project unto itself. Like,
I wanna keep it, I hear you, I do wanna keep it in the improvement plan, so it's just all in one place, right?
Then I
So
think
people
you kinda need a
But
revenue
I
and
think
expense
changing the
column.
stuff on the bottom can
Yep.
kind
But-
of represent them a
Well,
little
it's
bit.
got a place there, you could bond it, you could move it down to bond, you could do,
Yeah.
Cause right now, 2028 is your big year. So if you move some stuff into 2026, 2027, you raise those, you lower
Balance
2028,
it out.
you push some out to 2029. Whatever you can do to try to level fund as
But,
much as
yeah, I
possible would be the
also-
goal.
I agree with that, I also think there are just some things that are not, we're never gonna be absolute level because things just have different costs, right? Like, and if we can refer back to the specific things on this list,
Things have
well, why
different
is this year
lifespans,
a
too.
little bit more? Because one of the items costs, because we're buying a roof, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's
I
where
mean-
the spike is, so people can be transparent and see. But I think, like,
it's
not, if it
viewable.
was as simple as this would be lovely, but, and just asking to speak for yourself, not
Right.
for the budget committee. But if we came with a consistent maintenance of 200,000,
Right.
round number for argument's sake, hey, we're gonna spend $200,000 in maintenance every year, this is the
To
stuff.
be fair, it would be similar to what the town uses as the highway block grants. They come forward, what, $250,000 every year towards highway, or towards road maintenance. Roads, I don't always know which ones are getting spent on, and sometimes you put the list and sometimes they change. So it'd be akin to that, really, so there is precedent for putting aside a reasonable round number towards furthering maintenance.
Or a target number, cause
Or
I
a
do
target
think there's
number.
gonna be a little
Yeah.
variation.
the problem comes, it needs to get spent on that and only
Right.
that, which is
This is
where-
the building the relationship
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
and the trust and the rapport, because your predecessor wouldn't trust with it.
Because we're talking this and it just doesn't speak very well to the actual budgeting system.
Well, I just want something that is transparent,
Yeah.
right?
Right, I mean,
And
you can
that's what
back up the
goal is.
numbers, like,
Yeah.
so,
Problem is that, you know, that number, I mean, you've seen our budget, it's gonna show up in 18 different places.
Right, but I think to what, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of what my facilities does, right? Is they come out and say, I'm expecting to spend on my clean rooms and factory for cleaning, maintenance, filters, all of that other good stuff, is gonna be $1 million every year.
Yeah.
We're just gonna blow through $1 million just on maintenance and upkeep.
Mm-hmm.
If we can have that and then have a descriptor of, we planned for this, that $1 million, here's what we're hoping to do this year as a general consensus. And then we
Allocate
can,
that funds to different things.
right, and then, but then we can use this plan to back up that $1 million.
Right.
Right.
And if it fluctuates a little bit, I mean, like, I'm looking at this, you're looking at 20 grand-ish, 21 grand difference over 200, call it flat 200 grand, you're talking 10% change. Yeah, 10-12% change year to year, at that, I can easily see that going from time to time. But
Let's not shoot for a 10% increase.
Let's shoot for a plan, because that is better than we had before.
yeah, well, and I think this starts that plan, right?
This is gonna, this, I think I did it out for 25 years, maybe even 30.
That's
This is
ambitious.
gonna change a bit.
Oh, yeah, 'cause we're gonna have
Right,
net
like-
present value and
Yeah, yeah.
all that, whatever,
Yep.
net future value.
But-
Real to the budget though, I mean, there is a maintenance, based on what square footage of the building, maybe we just change how we calculate that.
We do need to, now that we've digested it for like a year, I would like to make some explanation changes through
Yeah.
that process. you
Because
know?
there's some that I'm like, this means nothing.
Like, there are
Why-
some
why?
general things that need to be general, but also using this as the guidance of, like, when we say that there's gonna be HVAC repairs this year, okay, this is the specific things
Mhm.
we're doing this year for that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So, it's easier for us to keep track of.
I
when
can
we
use
do
less dialogue blocks, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so, like, just make it simpler, right?
Just be prepared with your answer,
Yeah,
in my
so
opinion.
They're not boxes, they're lines, and you have to
So-
move down the line.
I think what I would like to do is, Brian, if you're able to send out an updated version, or I can send this one out to everybody. I
Send
think
this
that-
one out, because I'm probably not gonna circle right back to this for
Yep.
a
Right.
little bit.
Yeah,
But I
that's-
do appreciate the effort that's been put into that, I
Yeah.
mean, we've been advocating for this for like a decade
Yep.
at least. So I think that, and it's sad that I can say that it's been a decade. So, but I appreciate that we're finally moving towards that, so thank you for all that effort.
Yeah, and it's, a bunch of people contributed, so I don't want
Yeah.
to.
Well, thank you to your team and thank you for pushing it along.
Yeah, so what I would like to do
I'll
is, when I send this out, and possibly for the next meeting, I think the next meeting's gonna get dominated by the GMS RFP update for whatever we feedback, cause that's gonna be the day before we get any responses, I think.
No, we'll have them.
No.
Oh, yeah, we'll have
We'll
them.
The day
agenda
before
for
the
the
school board
board.
talks about
Yeah.
that.
So we should have the bids that we're bringing to the board.
Yep.
So I think it's reasonable.
That we dominate that meeting for that.
Yeah, looking at those bids.
Okay. So,
It actually works nice.
it does, so I would like to have everyone review this, go back, take a look, digest the comments, cause I understand what you guys are saying, and it's something that I've played with previously, understanding with, you know, I put in capital requests for, you know, 250 grand for maintenance on tools, right? And
Right.
here's the 5 tools I wanna do this year, and go from there.
Right.
Sound like a plan?
Works for me.
Excellent.
Just, if you look at it, there's a second tab, working version 2, just ignore it. It was not successful.
It didn't work.
It did not work, so
I
just.
think I closed it,
version
but,
one.
You might just wanna remove it before you send it out then.
yeah,
I'll take care of it, but
yeah.
if I have to forget.
Sounds good. At this time, I would like to open it up to public comment, from any public members that are here. This will follow the same general guidelines and rules as the school board. It'll be limited to 3 minutes. And public comments, shall be made without expectations of responses. But just reading through the guidance that's there, and I copied directly from the school board agenda. So, please, would a member, I'll even relinquish my position if you would like to come up to the microphone.
I'm just here to listen. I haven't been to one of your meetings, and so I just kind of wanted to I came from the Heritage Commission meeting, and I was able to just stop, and I just wanted to listen to how your meetings go.
Excellent, thank you, welcome.
Same as Diane.
Okay,
Yeah.
Alright.
sounds great, thank you.
Dan, that's my wife.
Yeah,
More exciting than, I know, more exciting than Heritage or less exciting?
Well, it depends on what you're looking for.
All interested.
I've learned a lot tonight, and that's why I like to go to the meetings, so. Sometimes if I'm watching them at home, I'll start to watch it or listen to it, and I start doing something else, and the ADD kicks in. And it's like, what was I listening to? So it's really kind of nice to be here, I definitely learned some new stuff.
Awesome. Seeing that there's no other community members, I will close community comment at this time. So I guess quick recap before we close out. Next meeting is, I think, well, I guess, is everybody in agreement that we cancel next Tuesdays? Yep. Okay, so, okay, yes. So, next meeting is July 8th, and I will look at the town calendar that John just put all the meetings in and try to get at least a list out to everybody, and I will add it to future agendas at the bottom. And I would presume next meeting is gonna be predominantly the RFPs that we receive in from the different firms. And Brian, can I request that whatever we get, you bring? Or at least digitize copies of thereof?
Is there a way to get them in advance as they come in, so we could read them before the meeting?
Oh, that'd be good.
That'd be good.
Right, yes, it might just be that Monday though.
I mean, they come in the 3rd, right? There's not that many days between, so.
Yeah, so we're off the 4th and I would assume there's not many people around on the 5th, but I
Yeah.
will not commit
Yeah.
to 100%. But Monday, we should be able to get them out.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Any other items a member would like to bring up?
I'd like to just make a comment that we went past 7:30.
By 11 minutes.
Yeah. I like motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you, Cheryl.
I will be leaving on the 8th because Trevor's at.
Going there now?
Going to go
Yes.
Trevor's at.
Yeah.